Hello, everyone. Welcome to Geeky Geezers. I am your host, Agent Boomer, and Auditor Jed. Yes, this is well. Hi, I'm your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
In the air, off the wall, getting high, getting small. How you doing all tonight?
It's been a topsy-turvy night. People were telling me I have two streams, and I'm wondering, is this like when Captain Kirk split into the two halves? Remember that episode of Star Trek?
Yes, exactly.
And one was good and one was evil, and then you realize, oh no, they're both half of Kirk, and they both have to get because the bad one had qualities that the other one needed, like
Right.
courage and other things, right? So
I mean, that was a great one, right?
yeah,
Because I mean, it kind of speaks to where we're at today, right? This whole idea that the other side is just wrong and bad and it needs to
yeah,
be done away with. I was just having this talk, in a private conversation with Michael French from Retro Blasting. We were talking about, our channels and supporting each other and whatnot. And he says, "What I love about your channel is that you don't discriminate against people. You respect everybody. They all have a seat at the table." And I'm like, well, with one caveat: as long as they treat me the same, as long as they respect me. I still am of that generation that believes that we are better because of our differences, right? We now live in an era where you don't agree with me, you are evil and bad and you're worse than Mustache Man, Really? And it's like, no, because the reality is I'm wise enough to know that if I'm at an extreme side from where you're at, reasonably the truth is probably somewhere in between, right?
is
So
Mustache Man banned by YouTube?
I don't know. I at this point I have no idea.
Is that word banned on YouTube?
Well, I saw a tweet.
Is
Someone
the word
put out.
YouTube banned on YouTube? Go ahead.
Could be. Somebody put out a tweet that said, "Think for yourself while it's still legal." I said, "It's just barely."
Yeah, right. Okay, but thank you for Autodrift for the warning. I deleted the other one.
Yep.
Hopefully, y'all are seeing this. I guess I'll
Yeah,
find out.
exactly.
What
Well, the
deleting
fact
the
is,
other
he
update
can't,
is
he
zero.
deleted the other one. So if there's anyone still sitting on it and they refresh
Like,
their screen,
hold on, I'm refreshing my screen right now. 10 watching. Okay, let's
okay.
click on it. Let's look at myself on the YouTube.
Don't
Okay,
forget to. You're gonna get an echo.
I muted real quick, so there's
There
only a
you
little
go.
bit of
There you
one.
go.
So here we go. Cry Havoc on Unleash the Geeky Geezers. Thank you, D. Penzek.
Yeah.
I don't feel
So
like crying havoc tonight. I'm kind of subdued. I had a very busy weekend.
well, I
Moving,
don't
moving,
know. I
moving
might
all of my accumulated belongings from one storage unit to another.
I might get into a little bit of havoc as we get into our DC discussion, but
I'm looking forward to it. That's going
I
to be the
kind
big
of
focus
I
tonight.
kind of wet everybody's whistle on that on Friday night. So,
Speaking of
but
wetting your whistle, what are you sipping on?
well, I'm just finishing off an energy drink, and then I'm going to go into another special, Diet Dr Pepper, because it's all that we had that was cold. Because I forgot to restock the fridge.
Well, Dr. Diet Pepper's good.
Mm-hmm.
And I got myself a Minute Maid fruit punch made with real fruit juice, or so it says. I figure it's
Yeah, I
appropriate
was.
for Christmas.
I got myself a 12-pack of the Minute Maid Zero Sugar Lemonade, and I was telling Big Al,
Oh,
who, by the way, he says, "I have a great stream, geezers. Happy first night of Hanukkah to my Jewish friends." I'd say Happy Hanukkah to everyone, whether you're Jewish or not.
of course, yeah.
I kind of feel like, you know what? I don't care what you celebrate. I'm going to tell you to happy whatever it is that I celebrate, and you could do the same to me.
Yeah, happy Hanukkah, exactly. Yeah, even in the workplace, I treat it. If you say happy something to me, I'll say happy something right back.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
respect. And a lot of holidays this time of year, Hanukkah being one of them. And happy Hanukkah to those Jewish listeners out there.
Couple of years back, I did a rewatch of Christmas on Sesame Street. It was the Christmas special with Big Bird, going up on the roof to wait for Santa Claus because Oscar the Grouch told him, you know, I don't think there's a Santa Claus because how could Santa Claus get down the chimney and how could this and how could that? And so he wanted to go up there and see. And as a side story, Ernie and Bert had a Gift of the Magi type thing going with what was it? Ernie wanted to get Bert a soap dish for Rubber Ducky, but he didn't have any money, so he hocked his. No, I'm sorry, I got it reversed. It was Ernie wanted to get a cigar box for Bert's paperclip collection, but he couldn't afford it, so he hocked Rubber Ducky. And Bert wanted to get a soap dish for Rubber Ducky, but couldn't afford it, so he hocked his paperclip collection.
I remember that episode.
And Mr. Hooper was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" He had that, that Jewish New York accent. "You sure you want to do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm sure. He's my buddy. I got to get him, this gift." Well, he knew what was going on. They didn't. So Christmas comes, they, have each other open their gifts. And of course, he's like, "Yeah, it's a box to put your paperclip collection in. Go get your paperclip collection." He goes, No. I want to see you open your gift." And he opens up his gift. He goes, "A soap dish." He goes, "Yeah, it's a soap dish for Rubber Ducky. Go get Rubber Ducky." And they're both kind of like, And then, of course, there's a knock at the door, and it's Mr. Hooper with a gift for each of them. And it's the paperclip collection and Rubber Ducky. And, Anyway, the reason I bring that up, I wasn't going off on this. We're not into good old days just yet. I guess we kind of are in a way, but
Gift of the Magi, though. Yeah.
It was Gift of the Magi. But no, the reason I brought it up was because the very last thing in the show is Bob, who just passed away recently, right? We were just talking about him a couple weeks back. Says he and Mr. Hooper are passing each other after, at the end of the show, and he goes, "Happy Hanukkah, Mr. Hooper," and he goes, "Thank you, Bob, and Merry Christmas to you." And I'm like, that always just grabbed my heart. I just love that. I mean, that was back when they were teaching us the positive message of diversity, not the asshole-ish in-your-face message of diversity,
Huh.
So, anyway, just wanted to share that with everyone. We can get onto the chat now and say hi to
It's about
Horizon
people
Talker.
being nice during the season. Horizon Talker, hello
Yeah,
to chat.
right?
Got a hi, sweetie, from the net. Great. Let me see. Let's go down.
Or as Tom Connors says, "Merry Christmas, bitch." Oh, you didn't hear about that, did you? The song that Tom Connors did. It's called "Merry Christmas, Bitch."
Oh, that's funny.
I gotta find a place where we could find his songs on demand so I could share them with you.
Let's see. I'm sorry, I skipped down.
Did you miss
Daniel
Matanui?
Herrick.
Matanui said hi.
Matanui, welcome.
Deleted Scenes is here.
Deleted Scenes, always good to see you. Deleted Scenes. Daniel Herron, please don't ban me for the stream like the Houston Symphony did last night. Wow.
I know. I was just telling Boomer about that. Oh my gosh, man. Joshua V, good evening, guys. Good to see you, my friend. I'm okay with Cavill not being involved. I figure something like this was inevitable, knowing how much.
You're okay with Cavill not being banned. You're banned from the stream now.
Actually, if anything, this is the stream you would be welcome at. I think a lot of other YouTubers would take umbrage at that. I mean, let's just say, Anna, the Star Wars girl, is probably in mourning over this, so we'll give her a pass. But everyone else is kind of being way out there about all of this.
Double your pleasure, double your fun with the Geeky Geezers. Actually, it was more fun with the women in that ad. But anyway.
Yeah, the twins, yeah.
Anyway.
Zootopia, hi, everybody.
Zootopia. Am I getting everybody? I don't know. I'm discombobulated.
I'm trying to make sure that we kind of try to get.
How many people are in here?
And they're saying hi to each other, which I think is really, really awesome.
Anyone in here who hasn't subscribed, would you like to be number 200?
Yeah, you're almost at 200. It's always nice to hit those milestones.
Why? Yes. Just when I get to 500 someday, just to be nice. But anyway, Matanui, what now? What now?
That's the hard thing about chat. He said what now, probably in response to something we said earlier, and I'm at a disconnect here.
Every time I hear the Hooper, I keep thinking Quint and Jaws chasing the oceanographer. Yep.
Oh, good point. Never thought of that. Now I'll never be able to not think about it.
I haven't seen much of the Sesame Street special, but it's funny. Is that the one Cookie Monster eating a Christmas tree? Speaking of Christmas specials, you're planning something for Friday, are you not?
I am. So currently
Christmas
on
Eve.
yeah, exactly. Currently on the MeWe group and my community tab on YouTube, I'm running a poll trying to decide between. We narrowed it down to five Christmas movies that we'll do a rewatch of. I'll do one on Friday, and Netter will do the other on Saturday. And we've already got some good votes in. They're kind of all over the place. There's no one, long runner or anything like that. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of it.
Wait a minute. Yeah, but none of them are slasher movies.
Yeah. In fact, it's funny you say that because someone did come in and do a write-in for Black Christmas. I'm like, thanks for the suggestion.
That's the best of the Christmas slashers. I watched one the other night called Christmas Evil. Have you ever seen that? The guy that works at a toy factory and has a psychotic break and dresses as Santa and starts.
I don't think so, but I do remember hearing about it. So yeah,
there are a lot more than I thought there were. There's like a few Christmas slasher movies.
So just so you know what's on the list, we got A Christmas Story 1983, Elf 2003, Holiday Inn 1942, The Santa Claus 1994, and Polar Express 2004. And I've got Holiday Inn, Santa Claus, and A Christmas Story kind of in the lead, but not by much.
I know which one I voted for.
Yeah. And I know that it could go any which way. So we'll see which two actually turn out to be the most popular, and Netterl and I will decide between us who does which one.
Let's see. I was there when Berman got banned. He spoke only facts. Okay, well, I'm sorry I missed it, but I will revise. I've been busy this week, and as I said, I was moving all of my worldly possessions from one storage locker to another. I have a lot of DVDs, a lot of physical media that I can't really use right now. It's very weird. It's
well, at least you have it, so they can't take it away from you.
I'm telling you, I Rio Bravo, I picked that up again on Blu-ray because I lost my DVD of it, but now I got the Blu-ray, so there you go. Rio Bravo. Ever see it? John Wayne?
Of course I
Dean
have.
Martin? Okay.
Yes.
Aged Boomer, you may not be...
Dean Martin in it, there's no way in my house growing up with my mom I could have missed it.
Sorry, not chasing, chastising, or berating Hooper. You got city hands, Mr. Hooper. Looks like you've been counting money all your life. Dude, was that a quote from the actual show?
Could be.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I just saw X, not a Christmas movie, but a good one. Just posted my review. Okay, well, I'll look for it.
Interesting. Okay.
So
and I predict, Boomer, that you will at least get to 200 tonight during this stream. That's my prediction.
We will see. Those of you out there,
we're looking for a Christmas miracle. That will be our Christmas miracle.
You could say proudly, I was the 200th subscriber.
Yeah, there you go. So everybody, go on your social medias, share out this link, and say, "Come subscribe to Aged Boomer. Let's get him to over 200 for his for Christmas."
Okay. Well, without further ado, let's get into the good old days.
Yep, tell me about the good old days.
We're gonna talk about.
Yeah, I better be careful. If I get too
That's
close
okay,
to the
you mangled it, so it's okay.
I was going to say, if I get too close to the actual tune, you might get a copyright strike. I'll tell you, it's crazy. I mean, you're nowhere near it, and they'll give you a copy strike. We're
talking about the Christopher Reeve Superman movie, which actually happens to be my personal favorite John Williams score. I don't know if it's the best Williams score, but it's definitely a personal favorite of mine. And
honestly, me too.
'79,
even more so than Indiana Jones, more than Star Wars,
which are great scores. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of good stuff. Even Schindler's List, I'll say that one.
Oh yeah,
that one's a sad one, but it's a good score.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I really not that I'm a Williams expert or anything, but I do love Superman '79, The Richard Donner classic. And I think I want to go back to my childhood and basically tell you that Superman was my first real exposure to superheroes.
Yeah.
That original Superman movie. I knew of other superheroes. I knew of Spider-Man. I knew of the Incredible Hulk. I knew of Wonder Woman. But Superman was the one that you had the big budgeted movie on the big screen.
Right.
Now, granted, I would catch this stuff on television later on. I didn't get to see them in the actual theaters, but maybe you did, Troy. Did you see Superman when it came out in theaters?
I absolutely did. My mother took me to see it. She thought it was kind of cool because she said she used to watch the George Reeves. And, of course, I was catching George Reeves in syndication on reruns and whatnot, too. So she was of that generation where she was able to laugh at the jokes like him seeing an emergency and having to change into Superman and running down the street, and he looks at the phone that was just a little kiosk, and he looks it up and down and goes, "Yeah, that's not going to work." And my mother just burst out into laughter.
It's a little callback to the old TV show, right? And it's funny. I used to have a Christmas ornament for the tree. It was one of the Hallmark ornaments, and it was a reversible telephone booth where you'd have Clark Kent, and then it would switch around and be Superman on the inside.
I remember that one. I didn't have that one myself. I have the one that's him, Superman flying, and you press the button on it, and it plays the John Williams theme.
Oh, I don't have that one. That's neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big Superman fan, as many of you may know. I mean, I don't talk about him so much these days because it's been kind of hard being a Superman fan in recent years, but big fan of that movie growing up. It's not without its flaws. But of course I wonder at the time, and it's weird because there are all these different cuts of it too, because there was also the special edition that came out later.
And so I think this is one of the things we'll get into later, but I just want to draw the comparison that before you had the Snyder Bros demanding the Snyder Cut, right? Way back in the late 70s, early 80s, we had the Donner Bros, I guess we didn't call them that back then, demanding the Donner Cut. And
of which movie, the first one or the second one?
Well, technically both, I suppose. So let me get into that, okay?
Sure.
So this was why this happened, right? Alexander and Elia Salkide put up the money for this Superman movie, and they had Donner, directing it, and he was pretty much calling the shots on it. And his plan was to film 2 movies back to back. Now, these days, that's not uncommon. We're in the post Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future era, where the idea of filming multiple movies together and then releasing them a couple years apart is not a big deal. I don't think that had ever been done on a big budget anyway.
Right.
Prior to this. The only time it had been done before was like the Republic serial, movies, and like you tune in next or whatever, and it'd be like, yeah, they probably filmed all week long and had like months worth of episodes that would go to the theaters on Saturdays, but yeah, on the big budget, and this was a huge budget. The budget for Superman and Superman 2 was incredible, and it was cutting edge, and they literally invented new ways of showing like the flying scenes and stuff like that. It was everyone knows this story, right? Donner's whole adage for it was verisimilitude, right? We're doing a comic book story about a man that can fly, but we're going to make people believe a man could fly. That's how realistic this is going to be. And damn if he didn't pull it off, right? And this was, again, back in the days long before we had CG. The best that we had was green screen, and he made maximum use of that, maximum use of practical effects, wire work, and so forth.
Models and whatnot. And it was
the
neat.
Stories about Christopher and Margot hanging on these wires for long hours and getting dehydrated because they were afraid to drink, because if they had to pee, it would take over an hour to get them down, go to the bathroom, come back, get back into all the rigging and stuff. It was crazy.
So go before you get up there.
Yeah, Daniel, I do feel that it was better than Raiders 2. I mean, you're allowed to disagree with me.
You can have different tastes and great
There's nothing
scores.
wrong
It's
with
okay.
disagreeing with me.
They're
but
both
if you're
great
asking
scores.
my
It's
opinion,
okay if you like one more than the other. It's
But yeah, and but he was filming these two movies back to back, and he was running into a lot of problems, as you would expect, as cutting edge as it is, and so forth. So it ended up, the release date for the first movie kept going out and out and out because he was falling behind. And eventually the Sulkides came to him and said, look, we need to get the first one done. So finish that first movie and get it out. And because he had to do that, because of that mandate from the guys with the money, he couldn't do it exactly the way he intended.
Mm-hmm.
Let me paint the. I'm sure everybody in our peanut gallery here knows, the has seen Superman 1 and 2. You know these stories.
Yeah.
But the way it was originally meant to be was at the end of the first Superman movie, he takes the what's it called, the missile that was, you see him do it. He takes it up into space and lets it go, and it blows up in space. That nuclear missile that was heading for Hackensack, right, that he puts up into space, is what caused the rupture in the Phantom Zone that released Zod and Ursa and Nod.
Yeah.
But they didn't have any of the footage shot for them yet, and their escape and all that kind of stuff. And they needed to have that to be able to include that in the movie. So what they did was they said, just screw it. It goes off into space, it goes off. And they had to come up with that whole Paris terrorist thing to have another bomb that he throws up into space to release the Phantom Zone villains. It's a little clunky. It worked, not a big deal, but that wasn't the original plan. It was supposed to be a much smoother transition between the two movies. And there was a bunch of other things that he had planned that didn't go quite the way he intended. But by the time the first movie was done, he was so late with the movie and so over budget, the Sulkites said, we're just through with you. They fired him, hired Lester. Lester comes in and he changes all kinds of things in the script. He wanted to be a little bit more humorous, so you get the whole Otis opening and the goofiness of that and whatnot, and the verisimilitude kind of goes out the window.
Like
right?
the guy like General Zod or Ursa blowing on the crowd and like the ice cream flying in the guy's face.
Yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff, and it was
dumb humor. Don't like it.
And
Richard Lester, he's an important filmmaker. He had Hard Day's Night.
Yeah.
People argue he's the creator of the music video. That was what he was well known for.
And that's fine, but that doesn't necessarily mean
that you're the guy for Superman. No.
When you are the guy taking over for someone else, okay, and we see this and we keep talking about this today, you don't come in like, who the hell I am, we're going to do it my way. You got to look at what came before and go, this needs to be seamless. You don't want people to come in and say, this is a Richard Lester film. You want them to say, this is Superman 2.
Yeah.
This is the follow-up, and nobody even notices the difference.
And the problem is, I think the reason why we like Superman 2 is because the good stuff that Donner did carried over.
Most of it was still there, yeah.
And it wasn't enough his stuff was so good that it was there at least, so the stuff Richard Lester added, it didn't spoil the whole thing. Of course, I remember people not liking it quite as much as the first one. So maybe some people liked it more.
So people are complaining today about the movies, and they're blaming the director, they're blaming the new showrunner, they're blaming whatever. You got to understand that this stuff has always been, and you're putting the blame on the wrong person. There's always the people with the money. There's always the studios that are interfering and making these decisions. It happened with the original Superman. It's happening with the current Superman today.
Yeah. A lot of things were changed in Superman 2 from what Donner wanted. It ended up being
Yeah.
his mother, when he wants to become mortal or become like a regular human,
Hmm.
his mother does it instead of Brando because I guess
Right.
they didn't want to pay Marlon Brando the money,
Exactly.
which is just
Exactly.
dumb.
That's another thing. That's another thing. A lot of these changes, we talk about these days with the 20% different and all that kind of stuff. Again, they're always doing this because they want to not pay somebody for a character they created or their likeness or whatever it is. And it's always to the detriment of the thing. If you're not going to pony up, then don't do the damn thing. Just leave it
Be,
alone.
because the whole thing was for Superman, he wanted to be with Lois. There's going to be a cost. He loses his
Hmm.
powers, and then to get them back, the cost was Jor-El. Whatever spirit is left of Jor-El is gone
Yeah.
now. He has to sacrifice himself to restore Superman back to full strength. And what I
Which
like
actually
about
was a
two,
great concept.
what I also thought was interesting in that movie, he made a mistake. He made a mistake for love, and I'm sympathetic to that. But he
Yeah.
made a mistake, and he even
Yeah.
realizes that too when General
Right.
Zod is on Earth and messing things up. Brad, I made a terrible mistake, and
Yeah.
I think that's good. It means that he's not this infallible. He's not a god. I always get annoyed when people
Yeah.
refer to him always like a deity. Or no, he's not. He's
Yeah.
he's he's a guy from Kansas who discovered he had a lot of
And
superpowers. It's
and
like,
I
what am I going to do with them? Am I going to be a villain? No, I'm going to try to help people.
and I really like that idea that it was originally there, right? Where
Yeah.
he shows up and says, "Father, I was wrong. I failed."
Yeah.
And you're right. In the original treatment, it would have been that, and this was actually something that the John Byrne era of Superman incorporated into the death and rebirth of Superman. When Superman died, the comic book equivalent of the Green Crystal, the AI that represented the intelligence of the Fortress of Solitude, it became a Krypton man. It cloned Superman's body and went out and did all the Superman things. Didn't live the Clark Kent life. It was just pure, Superman without any humanity, which wasn't really that cool, right?
Yeah.
But when the whole reign of the Superman things happen and whatnot, and you find out that actually Superman's still alive in that coffin because he's still got some residual solar energy in there. He could be brought back, but he needs an infusion of his abilities. The Eradicator is what it was called in the comics, goes and it sacrifices himself to bring Clark back. And I honestly believe that was inspired by this original treatment that would have been in the comic, or that would have been in the movie, that Donner would have had the Jor-El character I should say the AI that was the engrams of Jor-El sacrificing itself to give Clark his abilities back.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I've often said I wish they would do the Reign of the Superman story. That would have been great. That would have been great for a television series too.
Honestly, that would make for a great after they've done like 3 Superman movies, at the end of the 3rd movie, you kill him off in a battle with what's it called? Doomsday.
No,
and
you and I are at cross purposes. We'll get to that later.
Okay. And then you
I'll tell you how I would do it versus how you
that
would
brings you the introduction of Supergirl. That brings you the introduction of Con-El, Steel, and you get all these diverse characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
That are legacy characters from the comics that everyone loves, to start another phase in your DC thing. But be that as it may, that's what could have been with Donner, but wasn't under Lester. He also is the one that, screwed up the ending of the story so that it looks like Superman kills the 3 Fandom Zone villains, and you still have the Snyder Bros to this day saying, "Well, he killed them in Superman 2." No, he didn't.
No.
He depowered them, and then he had them taken away by The Arctic Police.
That would have
Oh
been
gosh, I'm
interesting.
never going to get over
Wouldn't
that.
that be interesting in a Superman sequel? How General Zod, he has no powers, but he's still conniving and scheming. That would have been interesting, right?
Well, I would imagine that what could have been good was he strikes up a deal with Lex Luthor. I have access to Kryptonian technology and so forth. He gives some of the Kryptonian technology to Luthor, but he kind of double crosses him because there's an invasive program that's trying to create a new Krypton on Earth.
And is it Brainiac?
And thereby ends up getting his powers. And yeah, could lead to a Brainiac story. Yeah, I mean, there's some great potential stuff there, you know?
But we ended up getting Superman 3 instead.
Right, which was, again, the original treatment was supposed to be Brainiac, but then they decided they didn't want to go with Brainiac. I don't know this for a fact, but I think it was because they didn't want to use Brainiac for probably, royalty reasons. So
I hope that wasn't the reason. It was just like, space aliens, that's too far-fetched. Have it be an Earthbound computer.
That's almost worse. That is almost worse. Well, but I will say this. It was the early 80s, and there was, this idea of the magic of computers. There was this whole war gamesy type of thought.
People back in the 80s, they thought that, like, computers were like Pandora's box. War games, Tron, Weird Science is a humorous look at that, where it's like the computers can do anything. You create your ultimate.
They were just 40 years too early. That's the way it is now.
Well, now the Silicon Valley types are actually. I'll say this. Wow, the metaverse. Huh? I can't wait to dive into that thing. But anyway, what was I talking about?
This is another one of those examples of this was our sci-fi at the time. It was trying to warn us. Again, we didn't friggin' listen.
So Superman 3 did some things right. I actually liked the Ned O'Toole, Lana Lang romance in that movie.
That was brilliant. Yes.
I think, isn't it about time that I hate to say this, but you're going to yell at me. I liked that romance more than the one he had with Lois Lane, because Lana Lang loves Clark.
Yeah.
And what was interesting was her son. She had a son already, so he has like a surrogate son there, like an adopted son he could have. Yeah. So you get out of the way. And the cool thing about the kid was there's a scene in the movie where Superman gets exposed to this weird composite kryptonite, which isn't the red kryptonite, but it basically is serving the same purpose in this movie. And maybe that's another royalty thing.
I will point out that, it was intended that it was supposed to be like red kryptonite, but because the story went the way it did, it was adapted in the comics to be a new kind of kryptonite. Anytime you try to create artificial kryptonite in the comics, it ends up resulting in something called black kryptonite.
Interesting.
And it does cause a Kryptonian to split into a good and evil variant. It happened to Supergirl, happened to Superman a couple times in the comics.
And it happens actually in this movie.
And it does.
It's funny because we were talking before the stream, the whole Captain Kirk. I was like, I have 2 streams tonight. It's like my good and bad selves. And what's interesting is it starts out he's just bad Superman, like
right.
The lusty assistant of the Lex Luthor stand-in in this movie,
right?
Played by
exactly.
What's his name, Martin Vaughn, or
guy
from Man of Uncle.
Right.
Anyway, she says, "Hey, we can do a lot of fun things. Just if you could just destroy this oil tanker, because I guess that was a competing business. He was trying to raise the price of oil by causing an oil spill, and so Superman destroys the oil tanker, and it's very." Superman's kind of sleazy. He's drinking. He's drinking, and like people are turning on him on the streets. Man, you suck, Superman. They're yelling at him. Yeah. And then the kid, Lois Lane's son, comes out. Superman, you're sick. I know you're still there. You'll get better. Fight it, Superman. Fight it. And that's what causes him to do the split. And then you actually have my favorite part of the movie, which is the fight in the junkyard, where it's basically Clark Kent versus Superman.
Yeah. And I've heard it interpreted different ways. Did he literally split in two? Well, like I said, that's what the comics would argue is the result of black kryptonite. But it could also just as easily be a mental battle against himself. Robert Vaughn, thank you.
Robert Vaughn, who oddly enough was acting like the rebooted Lex Luthor of the 80s in the comics, even though he wasn't playing Lex Luthor, less so the mad scientist. Right. Richard Pryor's in it as one of the villains who I mean, Richard Pryor's funny. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just odd. It almost becomes like a Richard Pryor vehicle. This movie, and I remember there's a scene where, like, I guess Richard Pryor is using his computer to do something with satellites to change the weather and cause a hurricane or a tornado or something.
Yep.
And you see this scene of like Superman, and he's describing the scene to all of them, how Superman goes in and stops it. And I'm thinking someone worked very hard on these special effects to show how Superman was able to go in and get rid of the monsoon or whatever, right? And you
Yeah.
have Richard Pryor narrating over it and makes it into a silly story. And I'm like, that was really bad what you did right here. This could have been an exciting action scene of him going up against, fighting the weather and changing the weather and saving the coffee crop.
You
from
can
getting
see the
destroyed.
kernels of a really good story for
Yeah.
that Gus Gorman character.
Yeah.
And honestly, there would have been nothing wrong with Richard Pryor playing that somewhat humorous but basically, decent character, right? This guy who's just got too much raw potential as a programmer, comes up with this idea, then realizes he's in over his head. He's not really a bad guy,
He basically thought he could take half a percentage. Like, what happens to these little percentage of money? Although who knows what happens to them? So he figures he's just going to take them and cash them in.
And he
of
doesn't
course-
realize it comes out to, thousands and millions of dollars. He's, oh God! Right? And then,
yeah,
of course, he's dumb because he goes out and he buys something expensive.
Yeah, Robert Vaughn says this man is a genius. We'll never know who it is because they're not stupid enough to. And then, of course, he shows up in the Corvette.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Exactly.
okay, we found out who it is. But he decides, instead of me sending you to jail, why don't you work for me and we'll help me take over the world and make lots of money. Okay.
Hey, Claude, welcome to the stream. And hey, again, I just want to put out a plea. Everybody, share out the stream and let's see if we can't get Aged Boomer at least one more subscription while we're streaming tonight. Get him to 200 tonight.
I should check my stats, see if I've gotten there already.
But anyway, yeah. The comic book adaptation for Superman 3 did kind of drop all of the Richard Pryor humor. It's almost like the comic book writers were like, well, we got to fix this. So
Let's make this better,
Kind of sort of fits our writing style, and it was so much better,
So yeah, I mean, flawed movie. Things I like, things I don't like. I kept wondering what happened to Lana Lang's first husband. It would have been interesting if they had written it like he was a firefighter or something and died, trying to save somebody or something. That might have made more sense, 'Cause it wasn't the bullying guy, because she never married him. He was just trying to court her after. The guy, the jerk from the Superman one. Remember the one who said, "Hey, Clark, you can't kick that football," or like he was laughing.
That
at
was
him in the
Brad,
car.
yeah. That's right, and I love that.
She didn't marry him. She didn't marry him.
I love that continuity, right? That it was the same characters that we saw in that Smallville scene in the first movie. Here we are in the third movie, and they're all older, and the football star. It's become a bit of a trope, but the big man on campus who's now kind of a washed out drunk,
Exactly.
But,
what's funny, that's basically the story of Johnny Lawrence on Cobra Kai, how he comes back from that.
Yeah, exactly. And but honestly, what they were doing with Lana was actually very much in keeping with what was going on in the comics, because they had this storyline in the late 70s where Lana comes to Metropolis, and they were basically telling that story in the movie. She comes, gets a job. I want to say that she ended up working at the paper too, but in a different. She wasn't a reporter. She was doing something else, and they were trying to reintroduce that whole love triangle kind of thing, and it worked well in the comics when they're just trying to keep a story going, But again, as you point out, she cared about Clark, Lois cared about Superman, and it's like, I'm only one guy,
It's interesting. I remember an episode of Justice League where Mongol, I guess, puts a plant on Clark. It's based on, I think, was it an Alan Moore story or
it was an Alan Moore story called For the Man Who Has Superman Who Has Everything. Yeah.
But what was interesting in this fantasy, he's on Krypton and he's married to a woman, and the woman is a composite of both Lana Lang and Lois Lane.
Kind of gives
Like
you an insight into his mind. Yeah.
like he actually loves them both and would want to be with both of them. I think that's interesting. So then we get to Superman.
Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. The worst part about this was the special effects that weren't really special effects. They were the equivalent of motion comics and reuse of stock footage, and it was honestly just terrible. I think there was a couple scenes where they actually flipped Superman around. The part on his hair is on the wrong side, his S is backwards, and it's
so
like,
bad.
oh my god, you know?
Here's what had happened. I remember reading that Chris Reeve signed on for it. Big fan of the plot about Superman getting rid of nuclear weapons.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
They got Margot Kidder back to Lois Lane. They got Gene Hackman back. So they got all the people back. And then Canon announced that, hey, all the money we were promising to fund this, we're going out of business because they were partnering with Warner Brothers. I guess it'd be like now if like Legendary was funding a movie and Warner Brothers was distributing it or something, or I don't know quite the details behind it, but it's on the audio commentary on the disc. I know I've sang this commentary's praises before, but the screenwriter starts out saying, this movie will make you think a man can never fly or something.
Oh gosh.
He said it was atrocious, and he says it's really sad because like there's this wonderful scene where Christopher Reeve Superman he's interacting with Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor, and he's they're having this great conversation, just classic stuff, and then Nuclear Man shows up.
Yeah.
And
Nuclear Man.
And they said this is like a what is it? This is like a villain of one of those Steve Reeves Hercules movies. That's what he reminded you of, from the '60s, the Italian ones or whatever. Just really bad. Just it could have been.
because they had originally filmed this. They pulled a Darth Vader here, right? They originally filmed it, and the guy was just fine, but they decided that they wanted it to be Gene Hackman's voice. So Gene Hackman had to go in and re-record all of the audio.
Everybody's listening to that, and they're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
it's so bad. Oh, I don't know. It is a depressing little movie. But I don't think Lester directed that one. Did they kick Lester off?
I don't remember. Point? Yeah,
I don't know. It's best left forgotten. And that's all we had for Superman. It ended with 4. And we've been clamoring to get back to Superman ever since. We had Superman Returns, which was a soft sequel or soft reboot with Brandon Routh, which I had a number of problems with when it came out.
But the concept of the reboot was sound, The idea.
I don't like the fact that Lois Lane had his son. He basically knows it's his son, but doesn't do anything. And
so he's a deadbeat dad. I also don't like
another guy think it's his, and it's just this.
I also don't like the super voyeur, X-ray peepers.
He never did that. He never did that. Even on Smallville, like he might have done it by accident at first, and it's like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah. But
I'm sorry, after radiation, that thing that pretty much does whatever writers want it to do, basically.
Right. Yeah. So the what's it called, Radiation Man, or the Solar Man, whatever the heck he was. That was originally supposed to be
Bizarro.
And in fact, they filmed it that way. There's deleted scenes on the with
DVD. Lex Luthor in the lab, like Dr. Frankenstein, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And it doesn't quite turn out, and he gets out, and they have this whole fight with him and Bizarro that didn't end up getting used. And you could totally, it had the white chalky face and the messed up hair and stuff, and you could totally see where they were going with this. And it's a real shame that, I don't know.
That they didn't go that route. That's what they I think they reused that storyline in Superman the Animated Series, because on that show they didn't make Bizarro from another planet. They made him from, it was a attempt of Lex Luthor to clone Superman, but it goes wrong.
Well, that was the original story for Bizarro. It always was that Lex Luthor. Realize. Okay. Well, back in the 60s it was Lex Luthor creates a, in quotes, Bizarro ray, and any organic being that was duplicated by it became a bizarre, version. So he got he created his own Bizarro Superman, and everything he said was the opposite, and so on and so forth. But then in the very tongue-in-cheek, almost quaint Frankenstein analog, Bizarro's like, me like being alone, me so happy, and Superman's like, wow, he's lonely and he's really sad. He deserves to have someone special in his life. So he goes and he makes a Bizarro Lois Lane.
That was nice of him.
So that they can, yeah. And that's when Bizarro goes and creates his own Bizarro world. And it's a cube rather than being circular. And, he and but they can't have children. So what do? They make a bunch of duplicates of themselves. So there's Bizarro Superman 1 and Bizarro Lois Lane 1, and then they all wear these little chains that say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as there's more and more and more of them. And then they end up making Bizarro Jimmy Olsen, Bizarro Perry White, Bizarro everybody to populate their world.
That's funny. I bet Bryan Singer would be a peeper, though. Okay, well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really, again, part of the problem. You got to kind of check your baggage at the door, like I said, and say, I'm making a Superman movie. His whole conceit was that Superman Returns was going to be a continuation of these Donner-verse Superman stories. Well, then get into the spirit of it. Don't inject your failings into it. Who is Superman? Write a story for Superman. And if you can't do it, get people from the comic books to write it for you, and you direct it.
This is what I don't understand. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, and maybe they can't just take whatever they want, but I would imagine there's a lot you can take from the comics, and maybe even the cartoons over the years and radio show. You could find something to adapt. That would be a cool story, but what do I know? Anyway, we should get to the news because it's getting late here.
Yeah, we probably should. Yeah, let me pull up the first article. Sadly, we do have an in remembrance. I'm just afraid that we're never going to see another week where we can get away with it. But
well, hopefully, nothing at Christmas, right? Okay.
Let me tell you something. This year has been really, really bad for music. The music is dying this year. And this is the 1-2 punch. We lost Julie Cruz a couple months back, and now we've lost Angelo Badalamenti.
Yes. Angelo Badalamenti, Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet composer, dies at 85.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's sad. Let me read from the article. Okay. In addition to his acclaimed work with David Lynch, the Grammy-winning musician collaborated with David Bowie, Marianne Faithfull, and others. Angelo Badalamenti, the Brooklyn-born composer who worked with David Lynch on Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks, and Mulholland Drive, has died at the age of 85, according to the Hollywood Reporter. The cause of death has not been announced. Badalamenti fell in love with music at an early age, beginning to practice piano at age 8, and eventually learning to play the French horn. In 1958, he earned his bachelor's degree from the Manhattan School of Music. He got his master's degree from the institution the following years. Badalamenti began his fruitful collaboration with David Lynch with 1986's Blue Velvet. Badalamenti was initially brought on to be the voice coach for star Isabella Rossellini, but he ended up composing the film's score, serving as the music supervisor, and also appearing in the film as a jazz lounge pianist. After Blue Velvet, Badalamenti returned to work with Lynch for Twin Peaks and Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. He has said that he improvised the television show's iconic title theme. Speaking with Spirit and Flesh magazine, he recalled, David came to my little office across from Carnegie Hall and said, I had this idea for a show, Northwest Passage. I remember saying, that sounds like something I read in junior high school. He sat next to me at the keyboard and said, I haven't shot anything, but it's like you were in a dark woods with an owl in the background and a cloud over the moon, and sycamore trees are blowing very gently. I started to press the keys for the opening chord to Twin Peaks' love theme because it was the sound of that darkness. He said, a beautiful troubled girl was coming out of the woods, walking towards the camera. I played the sounds he inspired, and she comes closer, and it reaches a climax, and I continue with the music as he continues the story. And from this, we let her go back into the dark woods. The notes just came out. David was stunned, as was I. The hair on his arms was up, and he had tears in his eyes. I see Twin Peaks. I got it. And I said, I'll go home and work on it. Work on it. Don't change a note. And of course, I never did. That's interesting how composers, they can remember the theme that they're composing on the fly. Is that, can they just remember every note? I mean,
Well,
that's
here's the thing you have to understand about musicians. If you take an electroencephalogram of someone's brain, right, when they are learning to play music, okay, it's a very, very different EEG than someone who is, professional, knows it, by heart, right? Because after a certain period of time, it no longer registers as learning a skill. It registers as understanding a language. Music is a language for a musician. Just like if you study a language, eventually you become fluent and you don't even think about it anymore. That's how a musician is with their music. And let me tell you something. The communication between David Lynch and Angelo Badalamenti was very like that. In fact, there's a quote from David Lynch about Angelo Badalamenti. He said, Angelo Badalamenti brought me into the world of music, and that's really what gave me permission to get into it, even though I'm not a musician. It's just an intuitive thing for me. And Angelo Badalamenti, and I don't remember exactly where it was that I saw this interview. He said that and you could probably find it on YouTube if you look it up. He talks about how he came up with Laura Palmer's theme. And for those of you that know the music of Twin Peaks, and know Twin Peaks, period, the story of Laura Palmer is very sad. It's about a homecoming queen who has been abused by her father. She has some very serious issues. There might be some, demonic and spiritual things going on too, or it could just be, matters of psychosis. That's all up to interpretation. But it leads to drug abuse and, wild sexuality and stuff like that. And it ultimately leads to some very self-destructive things that eventually result in her being murdered by her abuser. And so it's a very and she's wrestling with this by trying to do good things in the world to make up for the evil that she knows is happening all around her. So she works for
Meals on
Wheels, and she goes and tutors an autistic boy and so forth. So it's a very, very sad kind of thing, and it's just when Angelo described how Lynch, would not tell the story directly, but tell it in images. Because that's how he made his movies. He had these images in his head, and then he interpreted them into story. So he did the same with the music, and Angelo got it, And so he would play the music, and Dave would be like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It was the feel. How do you get the feel across? And that's what he did. And let me tell you something. That is some beautiful, beautiful music. I
have the score, yeah.
Between Angelo Badalamenti, right, and Vince Guaraldi at Christmas time, my love of jazz just exploded from there.
You can check out the link here. Thank you, Deleted Scenes. You're on point tonight.
Yep, you're awesome.
And Turner Classic Movies, remember 2022? Is that they're remembering who passed away? That's might be a good video to watch. Might be kind of sad though.
Let me tell you, yeah, it is. Yeah, Laura Palmer's theme. Thank you. That's an excellent one. If you've never seen Twin Peaks, you listen to that tune and you get
Haunting.
the feeling of it. Yeah, you get the feeling of it.
But in addition to the twin pillars of Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks, Badalamenti composed music for Lynch's Wild at Heart,
Yep.
Lost Highway. Wild at Heart, is that the one with the scene with the dog holding something in its mouth? In his mouth.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a funny
That
scene.
was that
Can I
was Lord.
spoil it? I have to.
Yeah, go ahead.
The dog has someone's hand in his mouth, and the guys are looking around. Where's my hand? The dog has a mouth, and I can
Yeah.
tell you what the dog was thinking in the moment. I know
Yum.
it's a man's hand. I know he's looking for it, and I can get away with it because I'm a dog, and I'm just gonna run off.
Oh,
with
there's
it.
that. Yeah. As I recall, it was Laura Dern and Nicolas Cage.
Yeah,
right?
Nick
A lot
Cage
of
and Laura Dern,
lot
yeah.
of allusions, some very overt ones to Wizard of Oz in that movie. And that's very intentional. And there is some implications. A lot of fans believe this, and I think David Lynch has even implied it, that Wild at Heart, Lost Highway, not Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks, and Mulholland Drive all take place in the same shared universe.
I can believe it. Straight Story, Mulholland Drive, Rabbits, Twin Peaks, The Return, and of course Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation,
Mm-hmm.
The Wicker Man. Is that the Nicolas Cage Wicker
Yeah.
Man? That's a wonderful, awful movie.
I actually
it's
never
terrible,
saw
but
it, so I don't
it's
know
a
what
lot.
the score
It's
sounds
a
like.
lot of fun. I have to tell you something. After I'd watched it and seriously analyzed it, you know what happened? I started bursting out laughing from the absurdity of what I had just seen. And I can't. There's a scene where I think he drop kicks Lily Sobieski. You know her, the one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's you have to see it just to believe it. Okay, but rest in peace.
Well, that was sad. But you know what's not sad?
What?
Do a refresh. You're at 200, my friend.
Yay!
And I can tell you who put you over the top. It was Vagrancy
did?
Horror.
Who?
Vagrancy Horror. He was
Vagrancy
on my
Horror. I
channel.
remember. Thank you. You should check out the stream. Check out his channel too. Definitely.
Yep.
And yeah, if you want to drop the link at some point to these things, that'd be cool. I'll give him a shout out. Horizon Talkers leaving for the night. Are they here?
Take
clapping?
care, Horizon Talker. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for showing up, and thank you again for the sub. I appreciate it, Vagrancy Horror. But I know about the woman he called cocks while wearing a bear suit. Yes, this happens in the movie.
Oh my gosh.
No, Nick Cage is like, you know how Nick Cage has this intensity acting that he likes to do. It's like,
Yeah.
the director let him go hog wild in this. It's not good. It's okay. Time to move on for the big story of the night. This is almost like one big story, but there are a bunch of little articles, right?
Yeah. We got a lot to cover here, so there we go.
Yeah, yay, 200. Thank you, deleted scenes. Okay. The first one is James Gunn calls Superman huge priority, debunks speculations about his feelings toward Henry Cavill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Although this is probably to a lot of people old news because some stuff happens after this, I do think it's worth underscoring and focusing on a little bit, and we'll come back to it later.
I'll read briefly from it. Okay.
Yeah.
James Gunn is taking a fun look back at classic cinematic take on Superman while simultaneously helping to map out the storied superhero's path. The new co-chair and co-CEO of DC Studios took to Twitter on Saturday to commemorate the 44th anniversary of Richard Donner's Superman. The seminal comic book film, which hits theaters December 10th, 1978, went on to earn 3 Oscar nominations and mark Christopher Reeve's star-making turn in the title role. Superman premiered 44 years ago today, Gunn tweeted, adding heart and star emojis. Gunn also shared the film's original poster featuring the tagline, "You'll believe a man can fly." Given the flurry of questions from fans about next steps for DC movies, The Hollywood Reporter's recent story addressing the studio's future, Gunn's post led Twitter users to ask about plans for the character. When one fan asked what Gunn was trying to say with the post, the filmmaker replied, "I'm trying to say it's the 44th anniversary of the premiere of Superman, which is a great movie." When asked whether Superman would be coming back to the big screen, Gunn responded, "Yes, of course, Superman is a huge priority, if not the biggest priority."
Mm-hmm.
He also replied to a tweet asking about Green Lantern content by writing, "Important." He then made it clear that Ryan Reynolds hasn't planned to return as the character, and when a Twitter user said that Reynolds was intending to reprise the role, filmmaker Zack Snyder, Gunn added he wasn't. It's not happening.
Can, can
Gunn,
I can I can I interject here real quick? You know who I'd like to see? I actually don't. I don't have a specific person, but it should be someone who played a pilot in Top Gun Maverick. I would like to see one of them cast as Hal Jordan.
you know who I could see? You didn't see all of Top Gun. Did you see Top Gun Maverick yet?
I haven't. I haven't had a
I
chance.
not Rooster, the other guy, the cocky guy who you don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily like, but then he kind of comes through at the end. I don't want to spoil
Cool.
more than that if you haven't seen it, but he might make a good Hal Jordan. I could see him as Hal Jordan actually. So yeah,
Yeah.
but we'll get to Hal.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to the speculation of what we think is going on, which of course other people have already figured it out. But
Yeah. Exactly.
Gunn also responded on different Twitter that did you drop something? To
Yeah.
a fan who tweeted that Gunn does not.
Thanks for
like
looking out for
Henry
me,
Cavill.
Boomer.
The actor returned as Superman in a mid-credits cameo during this fall's Black Adam after an absence from the role since Snyder's 2017 film Justice League. And when asked to comment on that claim about his feelings toward Cavill, Gunn wrote, "True or false?" This led to a fan who posted the initial claim to add that he has heard from multiple people that Gunn doesn't like Cavill, to which the filmmaker fired back, "So weird, you seem so plugged in. Anyway, I just had 40 people reach out to me to say you just got kicked out of your mom's basement. So sorry, man." Oh.
You know, and I'm gonna. I still don't like that kind of stuff on I think that's beneath people on the interwebs, but at least he's going after an individual who's going after him. He's not saying all fans. He's not saying all fans that think this or whatever. He's saying you're being a dick. I'm going to be a dick to you.
Yes.
You know?
I'll have to have a basement. That'd be nice. Anyway, this.
So what I do want to point out too, though, you know, this is one of those rare occasions where the title kind of sums up the article. So he is saying, James Gunn is saying Superman is a huge priority. And he doesn't have a problem with Henry Cavill, despite what people seem to think. Now, those two things do not become any less true as we go into our other articles this week.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Let's rip the Band-Aid off.
I didn't realize you were that ready to...
Well, do you want to? I can hang out here.
No. Just go ahead and start.
Look,
while
during an
I'm,
on-stage interview at the
drafting-
place shortly after the. Okay, let me see. Okay, I do want to actually read something that you're right.
Okay.
During an on-stage interview that took place in October, shortly after the release of Black Adam, Cavill said he looked forward to playing an enormously joyful Superman in the future. Said he was very excited about Gunn's hiring. Here's what's going on here. Cavill, I think, was even told by the studio that he can announce that he's back as Superman. Is that correct?
I wouldn't put that fine point on it. I think that it was implied to him that that's what they were planning, and that they didn't have a problem with him upping the hype about it.
Okay.
But I think he went a little too far, too fast. Let's put it this way. You know, what's the saying? Until it's in writing, it isn't. And we're going to be talking about that on some other things too, as we get into future articles. But it doesn't happen until it happens, and I think he kind of jumped the gun, no pun intended, and I think things were still in flux when he was assuming he had the role.
But in his defense, he does show up in the latest DC movie, so I can see why.
Which, from his point of view, might imply, yeah. But there's a lot of other things going on that you're kind of a fool if you overlook it. And
Okay.
and I don't think he's a fool. I don't think he was overlooking anything. I think he was looking out for his own interests and trying to campaign for himself, as one should. I don't begrudge him that.
Oh, I do want to answer Matt Anui's question. No, he did not. Dwayne Johnson and Henry Cavill are actually buddies in real life.
Yes,
And I think he was actually trying to help his friend out. I think he's the one that wanted the cameo in Black Adam. So no, I don't think Dwayne Johnson had anything to do with it. I think Dwayne Johnson was doing everything he could to get Cavill back at
I
Superman.
will say
Yeah.
this, Matt Anui. If he did, he didn't intend to. I think he kind of did. He kind of did screw him over, but that's only because the movie didn't do well. It didn't do well enough for if let's put it this way: if Black Adam? If Black Adam had made Big Bank, then it would have been very hard for them to say, let's retool and start over again. They would have said, okay, we'll do another Superman movie with Cavill. We'll do a sequel to Black Adam. We'll tie it into Shazam. We'll do a soft pivot. I think that's what would have happened. The fact is, though, it didn't do that. And just as I was saying that Henry Cavill is out there campaigning for himself, trying to, drum up support for a new Superman with himself, The Rock is trying to do the same thing for Black Adam. He's the one, after an article came out in the trade saying, yeah, this didn't do very well. He's going, oh, yeah, it did. Look, here and here. And he's trying to move the cookies around on the plate to make them look like more. This is the Hollywood game, people, and I'm not going to besmirch anyone for doing it. You always got to put your best foot forward, right? It's the same in the business world. You're coming up for a review. You're concerned whether you're going to be keeping your job next year or whatever. So you go and you say, hey, look all that I did this past year and how I've helped the company and blah, 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 and you make your pitch. It's just his pitch wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of mixed feelings about this. I get why they're doing it, though. I don't think it has anything to do with Cavill himself not being a team player or not being a good actor. I think it has to do with the fact that, as you've said prior, I mean, let's read the article. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. You're roboting a little bit. Hopefully it's not the internet on my end.
Oh, can I get it? Oh, yeah, it is me.
Okay, it happens. Don't worry.
I just looked up and I saw that I was buffering, so it must be on my end.
Stuff happens. It's okay. Let me go and read the article.
I'm going to drop the link again because I had dropped it a while ago. And
I know. We get talking. There's a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe I'll have to speed these up. Okay. But James Gunn writing Superman movie, Henry Cavill out. So
yeah.
Let's go ahead and get there. Things are heating up in Metropolis as DC Studios head James Gunn has announced he is writing a new feature film about Superman. In step with the new project, Gunn has also revealed that Henry Cavill will not return as the hero. Peter and I have a DC slate ready to go, which we couldn't be more over the moon about. We'll be able to share some exciting information about our first projects at the beginning of the new year, the director-turned-label chief tweeted Wednesday evening. Among those on the slate is Superman. In the initial stages, our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life, so the character will not be played by Henry Cavill. But we just had a great meeting with Henry, and we're big fans, and we talked about a number of exciting possibilities to work together in the future. Sources close to DC told Variety that Gunn, his co-president Peter Safran, and Cavill met recently and are all energized to find something in the comic book universe for Cavill to tackle. Cavill confirmed that he would not be reprising the role of Superman in a statement shared on Instagram. It's sad news, everyone. I will, after all, not be returning as Superman. After being told by the studio to announce my return back in October, see, that's what he says, prior to their hire, this news isn't the easiest, but that's life. So he hadn't been hired yet, but they told him to go ahead and announce it. That's interesting. That's what he's saying, at least. Yeah. Cavill wrote, I respect that James and Peter have a universe to build. I wish them and all involved with new universe the best of luck and the happiest of fortunes. Gunn has been at work on the new Superman story for some time, insiders say. Strip will focus on the character's life as a cub reporter in the fictional city of Metropolis. Audiences will encounter him meeting key characters like colleague Lois Lane, insiders added. Additionally, Variety sources said the new Gunn project will not replace the previously announced J.J. Abrams Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman concept, which is still in active development. Oh, bull. It is not an active development.
It's absolutely bullshit.
No, it's done. Zaslav is not going to know. He's
what
not
the statement says is technically true. So the in
the year 3000 it'll come out. So you can look.
Well, no. The James Gunn side of it is saying this has nothing to do with that. That's all he's saying. It's not overwriting it. It's not that's something completely separate that I have nothing to do with. That much is true. The article saying that it's still in active development, technically, that's still true as well. Even though everybody in the industry knows the thing is dead, technically, it hasn't been killed yet.
Yeah, please. We don't need a bunch of Supermen, just like we don't need a bunch
And
of
I'll tell
Batman
you
Westerns.
why it's dead, and it's also why this is happening. It is exactly what we've been saying all along. You have these movies that, where The Rock can come out and say, well, look how much money it did. It did really well. That doesn't matter when you consider how much the money costs to make and to market. If it costs that much, you need to make 3 times that much for it to be profitable. You did not do that. Therefore, it wasn't profitable. The best way to make a movie profitable when you have diminishing returns and a shrinking audience, you got to make the movie cheaper. How do you make it cheaper? One way is less special effects or economize on those special effects. We've talked about that, right? All this ridiculous, we'll fix it in post. No, you fix it in the camera. Retake it, shoot it, get it right the first time, and save yourself $10,000 in special effects right there. Every time you do it right the first time, The other thing is, you've had these people playing these roles for over a decade. They're demanding too much money. They need to be replaced. Sorry, I know you like Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot and all the other ones. Too damn bad. They cost too much. You want the movie to be made? We need new actors. Time to recast.
I'm gonna miss Gal Gadot though. I felt she was great casting for Wonder Woman. I am sad that she's probably gonna be the next one to.
I think a lot of Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, I'll even say Ben Affleck. Okay, they weren't bad castings. They had shit to work with, and they never got a good shake.
I'll say this: I was watching the Black Adam movie. I actually thought the casting of all the characters in that was pretty good too. Of course, again, they did the same thing they did with Justice League. We get introduced to Hawkman and Dr. Fate, and I feel like we in the audience are supposed to know who these characters are already, and they've never been in a movie before. It's like
that's been the problem all along. This putting the cart in front of the horse, giving you characters, and then doing exposition dumps and expecting you to care about who these people were instead of setting them up and it's what is the whole thing with a medium like this? Show, don't tell. They haven't gotten that right yet, but this treatment of Superman does sound like that's what Gunn is saying they plan to do with Superman. Real quick on Gal Gadot, what I got to say is, and again, I say this every time I reference back to Midnight's Edge and Tom Connors. They've got their sources inside Hollywood that we don't. So I'm just repeating what they shared. If you want more, you should really be subscribed to Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark. But one of Tom's sources was saying that they heard, and the reason that this whole thing, pivoted so quickly from, we're going to do a soft reboot and Henry Cavill's going to be back as Superman to, nope, we're going to do a completely hard reboot and nobody's coming back. It was mostly because if they had all 3 of the big 3, if they had Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, and Gal Gadot, they were going to go forward. And it was Batfleck that pulled out. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. He's having some... I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. He's having problems in his personal life again. He's on the outs with Matt Damon, and apparently it has to do with his wife, and possibly back to the drinking again. And look... They said, well, maybe we go with Pattinson, maybe we go with Keaton, maybe we do something else. And they said, no, if we're not going to get him back, we're just going to reboot the whole thing, So that's where you go. But also pay very close attention to what the studio is saying about Cavill and Gadot, and what Gadot and Cavill are saying about the studio. It's all very amicable, which means they're not burning bridges. They have nothing against the actors. The actors have nothing against the studio about this.
Yes. No,
so
be smart
we'll see
about
them
this.
Working together again in the future.
Maybe they could do, Warner Brothers too. I am going to say you can do other movies besides superhero movies, and maybe cast Cavill and Gadot in some of those. Okay, there you go. That might be.
I agree with Auditor Dredd, Ezra Miller, Ray Fisher, Amber Heard. Bad choices. Look, I will go so far as to say that if you can't get your personal life together, it affects your work. we're kind of seeing that possibly, allegedly, with Ben Affleck, and we're definitely seeing it with those three. Because I'll tell you, when I first saw Amber Heard as Mira, I was like, okay, I can see it. She looks good.
No,
And then
Pretty
as
Woman, yeah, but
yeah, and then as we started to find out what a psycho she was, I started to think, well, that's some pretty serious method acting, but it's still the character of Mira. She does go insane and try to kill Aquaman,
then there's
but yeah,
through the HR nightmare, right? The human
but
resource.
yeah, and so here's another thing that I've seen a lot of people saying, and I'm going to shoot down. They're like, oh, they're getting rid of Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill, but they're keeping Ezra Miller and Amber Heard.
No,
Guys, those movies are already filmed. They're done. They exist.
look,
Okay?
the current DC, yeah, go ahead.
And Gal Gadot has not filmed anything for a new Wonder Woman movie. Henry Cavill hasn't filmed anything for another Superman movie. They are rebooting. And Amber Heard is not coming back. And Ezra Miller is not coming back. Their movies might be released, but honestly, when I say released, I say that in inverted commas. They're being dumped. They may be dumped onto streaming. I don't know. But they're going to go out there. It's going to be the last hurrah for your Snyderverse, and it's done.
And I guess we also have Blue Beetle, which I'm assuming is going to be part. I don't think they're going to try to retroactively stick that in this new.
I don't know.
James Gunn
We won't
universe.
know
I
until
don't
it
know.
comes out. I don't
It's
know if
not
they're
out
putting.
yet.
I don't know if they're putting the effort into it to remove any references to the previous thing, so it could be part of the new
If
thing.
it's a good movie, you could theoretically just count it toward the new. Maybe they're probably just going to want a clean slate at this point.
And
They
there's a
probably want to
little
start
bit of
with
question
Superman.
now about Shazam, because since it wasn't directly tied into Black
No.
Adam, is it not connected?
It kind of is. I'm trying to think.
I
of it.
agree with you, but
Is it the same actor that played the Wizard in Shazam? Was the same guy that played the Wizard in Black Adam? I don't know. He looked older in Shazam. Of course, it's like
okay.
thousands of years later, so maybe it's the same Wizard. I don't know. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. No, Shazam was part of the Snyderverse.
I agree
whatever
with
the
you.
Snyderverse turned into. Because let's face facts, the Snyderverse vanished after Justice League. It vanished when he left it. I mean, then it turned into something else. And I always feel like when watching these, the ones I do bother watching, I didn't bother with Birds of Prey, but I did see Black Adam, and there are things I like in it, and then there's other things I'm like it's missing an ingredient. It's like
Yeah.
you're tasting the soup and something's off, something's missing.
absolutely. And I would say it's the setup. There's no setup, and they jump in en medias res and expect you to know what's going on. And
Like the
that's not
setting
how
was
you do a story.
interesting. It took place in it took place in a fake Middle Eastern country, which may be part of the DC universe, where
It is, yeah.
Intergang was oppressing it,
Yep.
which I thought was interesting, and so
That
Black Adam
that
comes
might be an
out.
example of maybe being a little too true to the comics, because Intergang I always thought was a stupid name for an intergalactic,
No, not intergalactic, international.
or international.
Well, in this though, you could tell the
crime ring.
mercenaries are from all countries because they must have hired the worst mercenaries.
Well, and that was always the plan. Intergang was supposed to be the crime version of Interpol.
yeah,
but
exactly.
Interpol is a real thing. Intergang just sounds stupid. They should have come up with some other name, but whatever. I'm if I'm gonna fault them, I'm gonna at least give them kudos for trying to be as true to the comics as possible. Sometimes you can go a little too matchy with the source material, so.
Blue Beetle is on the bubble, so to speak. I feel for the kid from Cobra Kai. His movie could get nerfed. I
Yeah.
don't know. It depends on how bad it is. I mean, Supergirl got nerfed. There was
Look,
something about that movie that threw.
Results matter. If that movie does fucking phenomenal, they can't deny it. They will find a way to keep it in the new universe. If it doesn't, they'll just go, that's another casualty of the Snyderverse. That's all there is to it. Auditor Dredd said, and I'm glad he brought it up, so I remembered to talk about it. I think they are recasting Momoa as Lobo. There has been talk about that. I do not know if that is fan casting that has made it into rumor, or if there's some actual teeth to that. I would hold off on that, but that could be another example of just because they're not bringing them back as these characters, doesn't mean that they're dead to Warner Brothers and won't be back in other roles in some other way. Off topic somewhere else, I was speculating how brilliant would it be if they brought back Gal Gadot to play a future version of Hippolyta or one of the Greek gods or something like that. Yeah. Hippolyta, Hippolyta, however you want to pronounce it. What if they were to bring Henry Cavill back as either Jor-El or Zod? You know, I could see them doing that.
Yeah, we'll see what they do.
But I'll tell you one thing. I saw a comment that someone made on a Midnight's Edge video, and I thought, you are a stupid ass. You really are. They said, look, because they brought up the fact that Henry Cavill, as good as he looks, he's getting older, and it's getting really hard to play a 20, 30-year-old Superman when you're, pushing 40. And he's like, oh, well, they got CG today. They can make anyone younger. No. That is the exact opposite of what they want to do now. They want to limit the budget. Stop doing that.
Stop erasing your mustache,
and stop getting, again, I'm going to refer back to the recent Michael French retroblasting video where he's talking about recasting roles. For crying out loud, Indiana Jones was never meant to be Harrison Ford forever, okay? Because then the character lives and dies by the actor. Yes, Harrison Ford is too old to continue playing Indiana Jones. So now Indiana Jones has to die. I'm sorry, but that's what you as fans have decided because you couldn't let go of Harrison Ford. If they had recast him with, I don't know, Brandon Fraser for the third movie, we could have kept this going forever.
Well, you mean for Superman? The fourth movie.
Superman didn't die when Christopher Reeve died, right? He was recast 4 times since then. So don't get bitchy when Henry Cavill is done. He's done now. Time for a new Superman. And I'm going to say to all the Snyder Bros what they said to me. Get with the times. Things are changing. Get over it. Thank you.
But I did want to point out, though, the reason we're saying reboot is because James Gunn says, we're doing this because we want a younger Superman, and we want to be on... Whenever somebody says that, it's really just a prequel to Man, no, it's not. You're rebooting the whole thing. Read between the lines. They're rebooting the entire thing.
Which is what's happened every time they... Well, arguably not when they cast Brandon Routh. But every other version of Superman with a different actor has been a different incarnation of...
Sure.
I mean, you could easily think of Smallville as if it tells a story that takes place in between the prologue portion of the first Superman movie and the Metropolis portion of the Superman movie. But it doesn't really work because it's the difference between 1979 and 1990, whatever it was.
Smallville's its own thing. It does callbacks to those movies, but by having even Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder show up on the show. But don't
misunderstand me, Boomer. What I mean is it's still Superman. It takes place in a different time. The comics have always done this. Superman was Superman in the 30s. He was Superman in the 40s during World War II. He was Superman in the 50s and 60s in the Silver Age. He was rebooted in the 80s, right? It's still Superman. It's still Lois Lane. There are things that need to maintain continuity, even though it's moving into the current timeline, So it's got to happen, guys. And honestly, I say it's long past time because this Snyderverse never found its footing. It was built on a very faulty cornerstone to begin with. So, but I did, and you don't really need to get into this too much, Boomer, but I am going to drop the link to a Bounding Into Comics article. Petition launched to have David Zaslav keep Henry Cavill as Superman and remove James Gunn as DC Studios head.
Do you know what I hear from this? I hear wah.
Yeah. And again, this is this is predicated on this ridiculous idea. This is Zaslav doing this. You can't get Zaslav to do anything. This is not James Gunn any more than the problems with Superman 2 were Richard Donner's problem. Richard Donner is out. Richard Lester is in. And you're going to the Sulkides saying, remove so-and-so. No, that's not how this works. Okay? This is Zaslav making a business decision. If you, instead of your petition, go back in time and go see more Snyderverse films and make it profitable. You didn't do that, so it's over.
Here's what happened with the Snyderverse.
Deleted scenes petitions don't work if you think that the premise for the petition is the goal. Petitions are great as a communication device, okay? The petition about Amber Heard worked. It did. It got the message out there. It got the powers that be to understand people don't like this person. This is a problem, okay? Otherwise, they figured who gives a crap, right? But you're right. The only thing that's going to make actual change is money. Money talks. Hollywood is a business. Okay. And if you keep having failure after failure, you eventually go, we either need to reboot or something because this isn't working.
They hired James Gunn because I believe that James Gunn was originally being courted to take over the MCU for Phase 4. Now, I don't know if I have any proof of that, if I heard a rumor there, or if it was my own personal speculation. I think that fell apart when...
Because of canceling,
Because he got canceled because of some tweets he made in bad taste.
Yeah.
Because that was what people did on the internet back in the day.
Years ago, and we've got people that just have nothing better to do than go back and read 6-7-year-old tweets from years ago.
Warner Brothers then yanked him from Disney to direct the Suicide Squad. I don't know how well that movie did. It was funny enough, though. I'll say that I did see it. It was somewhat entertaining. I like the actor they got to play Polka Dot Man. He's a good. They should actually.
I've heard some good things about that. They basically, and it's about Polka Dot Man. They basically say if you could take an obscure, useless character from the comics and make him interesting, you might be doing a good job.
So. I'm kind of curious, actually. Since
Auditor Dread says, CGI in Cavill's face can't fail us, right? It's funny you say that, Auditor Dread, because when I was talking behind the scenes with Boomer, Boomer was the one who made the suggestion, hey, he could play Zod. And I'm like, at first I'm like, oh, the problem is I'm so used to Zod with the goatee and Terrence Stamp's hairline. And then he goes, well, they could just CG it. The joke being, they put a mustache on him or took a mustache off him. They could put a goatee on him, but no. He's got the accent, though. He probably, the more I think about it, the more I think, he actually would make a good Zod.
Actually, no, who they need to cast Henry Cavill. I'm actually with the critical drinker on this one. A James Bond. He's not playing Superman anymore.
Sure, but unfortunately, the next James Bond is going to be a person of color, transgendered, gay, fluid, something or other.
That or they'll just get a guy that cries a lot.
Oh, yeah, it could be. Yeah,
has to emote his feelings.
They can get Kevin Smith to play James Bond, sure.
Apologize to everyone in the movie for being a man. And, I'm sorry. I am not happy with Barbara Broccoli's recent statement about that. I want classic James Bond movies back. I don't want this nonsense anymore. But
I'm being facetious, of course. I would agree with you that Cavill would make a great James Bond if it was James Bond. I don't see them making another James Bond in this generation. It's if they make a movie called James Bond, it'll be some woke piece of shit.
In the old days, if this was back in the 80s, 70s, 60s, they would have looked at Henry Cavill. They would have saw him getting freed up. They would have snatched him up in a heartbeat. The old producers, production, they would have seen Cavill. They would be courting him to play Bond, period.
Yeah.
But we're not there anymore. That's what's going on.
Hell, they'd be courting him to play, and then, Warner Brothers would have been like, well, we're not sure we want to let him out of his contract.
No, let's not go there. That happened before. But the point
I
is,
know, that's what I'm referencing. That's
you
what I'm
can't really
talking
have
about.
someone playing both Superman and James Bond. But since he's out as Superman, there's no reason they couldn't get him to play James Bond.
Actually, I disagree with you. If
No.
they were to work together and get the
No,
scheduling right, he totally
I don't like
could.
it. I don't like it. It's they're both two very iconic characters, and I don't want him playing both of them at the same time. It would be
But
weird.
he's an actor. He can act.
It's just weird. I'm sorry. I don't like it, but you and I can disagree.
Well,
Let's move
I
on.
don't see it happening. It just the current world. He's obviously not playing Superman anymore, and if he plays James Bond, it won't be James Bond. So
Let's move on to the next article.
yeah, I'm assuming the Gal Gadot, what's it called, the Patty Jenkins thing.
I suppose she could affect a British accent and play Lara Croft. Oh well.
You know what? I liked her accent so much as Wonder Woman. I always wanted Wonder Woman to have some sort of a Mediterranean accent.
No, it worked. It worked for Wonder Woman because I've seen Wonder Woman portrayed both ways, without the accent and with the accent.
Yeah.
I think it works either way. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I really like that because I really got into the headspace of the Marv
she's
Wolfman,
Greek. Yeah, she's Greek, so,
George
yeah.
Perez, 80s reboot of Wonder Woman. But yeah, for all the good things that came out of the Snyderverse, there's just way too much bad, and it is time to just, time to throw it away and
Okay.
start over again.
Wonder Woman, big success when it came out, and I do credit that with its star, and also the fact that the plot was semi-coherent, unlike the sequel. And then of course you have Justice League, which was the huge disaster, which almost destroyed the thing. Then Aquaman was already being filmed and ready to go, and that was a huge hit.
One of the biggest problems that a lot of fans had with Justice League was its portrayal of Wonder Woman. Coming off of that Wonder Woman movie, the dumb jokes with Flash and whatnot was like, wait a minute here,
Imagine this. I would like Wonder Woman to start out with the accent, lose it when she speaks English over time. I think it might be interesting if she keeps the alter ego of Diana Prince. Diana Prince doesn't have the accent, but Wonder Woman does.
That's actually
be
kind of
interesting.
clever.
That would be
That's
interesting.
actually a great idea. But I also like the idea. Yeah, she starts out in the World War II era, not World War I, World War II era with an accent. And if you do the whole, she goes away and comes back, in the modern day, she's lost the accent. That I could see that. That would show progression of the character. But I also like your idea. That would be a great way for her to keep the accent as Wonder Woman. And who is this Diana Prince who has a Midwestern accent?
She sounds nothing like her. Yeah. Bond. They need to go back to basics. Go back to the books. Set the pipe. Make them R-rated if need be. Hire Cavill. Yeah, they're not going to do this.
Not only go back to the books, but yes, it needs to be that Cold War era. I mean, oh my gosh, have you read the books, Boomer? I know you're a Bond fan. Have you read the books?
Yes, I've read some of them. I haven't read them all, but I've read some.
I
of them.
love
They're
those
very good.
books. They
Oh,
are
yeah.
so different. It's like
They're
we
different movies,
really
yeah.
have not gotten adaptations of those books.
We haven't.
A lot of them are those books in title only.
Especially Moonraker.
Yes. Yes, thank you. That's the one I was thinking of, actually.
Moonraker. That was actually a big hit when it came out.
For all that we disagree, you and I sometimes are just totally simpatico.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get to Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend a huge amount of time on this because this.
Yeah.
Funny, earlier in the week we thought this was the big news of the week, right? But not now.
Yeah.
Okay, did you post it?
I did. It probably went back.
Well, it's all the way up there. Okay, wow.
Oh yeah, I mean, Mad Chicken Deleted Scenes and Auditor Dread had some things to say
Well, whatever,
in
anyway.
the interim.
Okay, so here's the big article tonight. Patty Jenkins has broken her silence on Wonder Woman 3. The Hollywood Reporter broke this news on December 7th that Jenkins' iteration of Wonder Woman 3 was not moving forward as she submitted a treatment to Warner's leadership. A day later, the Wrap reported that Jenkins walked away from the project after a dispute over notes with the studio. In a statement shared on her Twitter, Jenkins began by writing, "Sigh. I'm not one to talk about private career matters, and I will not allow inaccuracies to continue. Here are the facts. Now, we actually talked about this a bit last week, didn't we? When there
Yeah.
started being backlash about that was because Rogue One was done. When there started being backlash against Wonder Woman 3 not happening, the attractive clickbait false story was that it was me that killed it or walked away or started the spread. Jenkins wrote, "This is simply not true. I never walked away. I was open to considering anything asked of me. It was my understanding that there was nothing I could do to move anything forward at this time. DC is obviously buried in changes they are having to make, so I understand these decisions are difficult right now." She continued, "I do not want what has been a beautiful journey with Wonder Woman to land on a negative note. I have loved and been so honored to be the person who got to make these last two Wonder Woman films. She is an incredible actor. Living in and around her values make one a Oh, she's an incredible character. Living in and around her values make one a better person every day. I wish her and her legacy an amazing future ahead with or without me." Jenkins went on to praise absolute legend Linda Carter, the original Wonder Woman who appeared briefly in Wonder Woman 1984, and franchise Gal Gadot, whom she called the greatest gift I have received on this whole journey, a cherished friend, inspiration, and sister. Continued Jenkins, "There are no words I can use to convey how magical she is. She is the walking embodiment of Wonder Woman in real life and a better person than the world can imagine. Never once in the million of moments I have spent with her did I see anything less. She is a gift to this world, and even more so to me." I have nothing. I have nothing but good things to say about Gal Gadot either. I wish she had. They had. I wish Wonder Woman 84 had been better. Okay, just. And Jenkins went on to press the other Star Trek Rogue Squadron, which presumably was dead after Lucasfilm definitely late last year. However, she noted it is still in active development, and that after delaying the project to focus on Wonder Woman 3, Lucasfilm offered her a new contract, and she is still working on it, though she is unclear if it will get made or not. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I honestly, everything that's been coming out around this, again, we were talking about people in Hollywood trying to put their own spin on things, trying to make themselves look good. The problem is that there's way too many sour grapes with Patty Jenkins. She thought who the hell she was, and like Icarus, she flew too close to the sun. She did well on that first movie as a director of the first Wonder Woman movie, and people were singing her praises. But she had changed some things, and she wanted writing credit. And the Directors Guild was like, no, that's not how this works. So then she decides with the second movie, well, I'm going to write this movie. And how did that work out for her? And by the way, what's going on with Rogue Squadron that she was also supposed to be doing? Apparently that's not happening either. If it's so bad that Kathleen Kennedy doesn't want to go with it, Kathleen Kennedy can't work with her, there's something really seriously going on. I'm picturing a cat fight between Patty Jenkins and Kathleen Kennedy.
Possibly.
And Kathleen Kennedy going, not in my house, girl. Bye-bye.
I am also imagining, though, that perhaps the money people are waiting to see how the next Indiana Jones movie does before they would greenlight another Star Wars movie theatrical project.
I think you're probably absolutely right about that as well. But yeah, that Rogue Squadron, that's not happening.
Because I could see them still doing the Rogue Squadron movie without Patty Jenkins, saying, "Oh, we've picked another director, James Mangold, who." So he can
and we've talked about this too. The fans would love to see a Rogue Squadron movie. If it's a good Rogue Squadron movie that follows the EU, and let's face it, people like what's his name, Favreau, have done a great job of taking inspiration from the EU and canonizing it and giving us good stories. So it could happen. If it does not, then screw it. I don't care about it. I don't even want to know about it.
It makes sense to get Favreau to direct it once he's done.
But the fact is that Patty Jenkins seems to have pissed off all the wrong people in Hollywood. So I'm not expecting to see anything from her anytime soon. So this is all crap. This is all bullshit. And Gal Gadot has been very diplomatic to not say anything negative about anybody.
Gal Gadot is a movie star. I hope
Yeah,
she's in other things. I hope Cavill is in other movies too.
yeah.
Ezra Miller, goodbye. Done. Go away.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I
They can
just
have Henry Cavill as in the next Fantastic Beasts as another iteration of Voldemort because they keep having to switch the actor. I'm kidding.
yeah, but he's like real buff, but he still has no nose, right?
Apparently, in those Enola Holmes movies, which I haven't seen, he plays Sherlock Holmes in those. That might be interesting having him play Sherlock Holmes. Henry Cavill.
Yeah, but I
don't
don't
know.
think I want to see him. Holmes. Yeah,
No,
I'm not
that's
interested in
that's
this.
right. That probably screwed up that choice to do that.
But that's
Let's
the
move
kind
on.
of thing I'm talking about, right? It's like, yeah, he would be good in it, but not in that. He'd be good in James Bond, but not in what we would get. So
Maybe a hard-boiled detective movie that might be a good venue for Henry Cavill. Like,
honestly, I do think that it's about time that they get away from continuous reboots of franchises that they fucked up and just start going back to other genres. Give us the noir detective films again. Give us the westerns again.
yeah.
Right? Maybe give us kung fu movies again. Whatever.
Well, that's another kung fu movies are another topic. We had Shang-Chi. That was a kung fu movie.
And then that did real well, right?
Okay. Anyway, let's move on to DC's big plans for Batman reboot teased by studio chief.
Yeah, so this kind of falls into the whole thing that I'd been talking about. We've got 25,000 Batmans, on the big screen. For crying out loud, can we just get one and get it done right? Well,
Okay.
we'll see.
Here we go. DC's big plans for Batman reboot teased by studio chief. DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn hinted at a rebooted Batman being foundational in the upcoming reimagined DC universe. As James Gunn and his partner Peter Safran took to the future of Warner Brothers' superpowered franchise change is the word of the day. Gunn recently revealed how a new DC slate is ready to go. Hold on. And that, of course... Sorry, Reese is letting go. However, it also comes with the news Henry Cavill officially being replaced as the franchise's Superman. But when it comes to Batman and the Gunn and Safran plans, things have been murky. It was reported that the duo was looking to fold Matt Reeves' The Batman world into the DCU, something Gunn was quick to shut down after it made the rounds.
Good.
And now the Peacemaker director and new studio head has offered a hint at his plans for the Bat of Gotham at our DC studios. A rebooted Batman will have a big part in this next era of DCU if newly appointed DCO Studios CEO James Gunn is to be believed. Replying to a fan on Twitter who asked if Batman was going to be a big part of the DCU, Gunn simply said he's a big part of the DCU. Seeing as the DC Studios had recently confirmed Matt Reeves' the Batman universe would not be integrated into the new DCU, this more likely means that Warner Brothers' superpowered universes will feature an all-new rebooted version of The Dark Knight. As in a similar vein, Gunn also tweeted noting that the next evolution of the franchise focused on the well-known and the lesser-known characters simultaneously. We'll be focusing on the most well-known and some lesser-known characters simultaneously. Okay, that was a quote I just said. Who are the lesser-known characters that you would try doing? Maybe the Outsiders? The Blackhawks? I know they talked about doing a Blackhawks movie. But
If they're smart, the idea of doing the Outsiders, the Teen Titans,
yeah.
that kind of stuff. Because if you do that, they talk about these phases, right? You do a phase where you do the buildup of the main characters, right? The mainline Justice League characters, right? That leads up to maybe some kind of a Justice League whatever event. They split off, and then in the next phase, they're taking on, Robin, and there's a Supergirl, and whatever your next generation is.
Okay.
They then, at the end of that, those characters become a Teen Titans group, right? And we continue on from there. It doesn't have to outdo the Teen Titans don't have to just, be world shattering like the Justice League. It could be a smaller thing, but it leads up to something for them, and that leads into a third season. And you just have these characters continuing on with the younger generation getting older as they go, and then eventually when the older ones are ready to retire, the new ones are ready to take their place. It's organic, but you got to put the work in up front. You got to plan it out.
This Marvel had their phases. Let's go back to Marvel Phase 1. We had Iron Man, Incredible Hulk
Mm-hmm.
come out the same summer. Then you had then you had Iron Man 2, followed by Thor, Captain America, culminating in the Avengers movie.
Right.
I think if DC is following a similar track in their Phase 1, we need to have a Superman movie with Lex Luthor as the main villain. You can have other
Mm-hmm.
villains if you need it, but Lex Luthor has to be front
Sure.
on that. You have to have a Batman movie, and Robin has to be in this Batman movie. Robin can lighten up the tone a little bit. You don't want to go for the Matt Reeves super dark Batman, right?
Right.
And the Joker will be the main villain in that movie. You have to have Lex Luthor and the Joker from the get-go. They're the primary villains of these two characters, right?
I like what you just said about Robin because
Yeah.
honestly, we don't need to rehash the origin for Batman again.
It can already be established, like maybe even the background when Clark is being Superman.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a paper out about the dark, Batman and Robin in Gotham or something. Like maybe it's already an established thing. Maybe at the same time he's being Superman.
So you're right. Your first
thing,
movie
yeah.
could introduce Robin, and you're right. It could be this dark vigilante that beats the crap out of these villains. But then this thing happens where this orphan is left, and Bruce Wayne is like, I got to take this kid in and help channel him. But it also causes him to realize now he's got a responsibility for someone that needs protecting.
Yeah.
And this is now going to be why he's doing it, so he lightens up a little bit. And, yeah, no, I like that. That's actually kind of brilliant. And then all of that story that goes before, you could extrapolate that from Michael Keaton or the Nolan verse or whatever. We've already seen it all. We know it.
Yeah. And next movie, you could do a Wonder Woman movie, you could do a Green Lantern movie, because they're the other two big ones, right? It would be Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, because you want to save your other Green Lanterns for future movies, especially if the actor who plays Hal Jordan wants to call it quits or at least not be on screen as much. Then you can introduce Jon Stewart or Guy Gardner or...
And honestly, you don't even have to wait for that. They could definitely be brought in as background characters earlier on, and then... Actually, I'd love to see a Guy Gardner streaming show.
It would actually be funny if in one of the movies with Hal Jordan, he has to train a Green Lantern, and it's like Jon Stewart or Guy Gardner or Kyle Rayner or somebody. That'd be interesting. But
if we get to that phase, I would love to see Guy Gardner and Blue Beetle and what's it called, Booster Gold and whatnot. Martian Manhunter on a streaming, and this would be perfect for Gunn, right? A Justice League International streaming show. That would be brilliant.
That'd be funny too. Yeah, I'd like to see that. I would have liked to see that in an animated series. I mean, they sort of
that would have been good too. Yeah. No, you're absolutely.
Here's what
right
we need. Okay,
that.
but anyway. The point is, though, you would probably do Wonder Woman, Green Lantern in that first phase, maybe another Superman movie, and then the culmination movie, how the Avengers was Marvel. I think what it should be World's Finest. Yeah. Which I know it's had various instead of being a Justice League movie, have it be World's Finest, have it being Batman meeting Superman, or Superman meeting Batman.
And if they have to, it could be a little clunky. World's Finest only means something to the comic book fans.
I know.
What you could call it is Superman and Batman, World's Finest superheroes. That's what you call it.
What they did on Superman the Animated Series when they had Batman finally show up, this was the plot of it. The Joker goes to Lex Luthor and says, I will kill Superman for you for such and such $1 million. Okay, and they make a deal. So it's the Joker working with Lex Luthor to kill Superman, and that's what drags Batman into Metropolis, because he's investigating what the Joker is up to. Yeah. And that, I'm not saying they rip off that exact premise, but it would be interesting to see Lex Luthor and the Joker working together, and Batman and Superman have to work together. It didn't go well with Lex Luthor and the Joker working together, because the Joker,
I would imagine,
insane,
and
ends up turning on Luthor too. But it's
right.
But the point is, instead of it just being a Justice League movie, you can save a Justice League movie for later on, maybe at the end of Phase 2. But you should maybe do World's Finest, just culminate in that, and just keep.
And the other thing too is, I think that Marvel went to the well too much, and they wanted to every phase end in Avengers movie. You don't have to do that. You could do one Justice League movie and that's it, right? Maybe two farther down the line. So you do one that's like a dark side thing, and then further down the line you do one that's like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't.
I don't
even
know if I want to
imagine
go
what
back
else
to
you would
Dark
do.
Side at this point because they already tried
They
doing
already
that with this
fucked that
new.
one up. Yeah,
Maybe
that's
leave Dark Side
unfortunate.
alone for a bit. I think they could do it. There are a lot of storylines you could do, though. I mean, it's because I think with Superman, I would be having him fight smaller villains. I
I
don't know if
saw
I would
some
even.
parts of the Super Sons
Me-
cartoon that Mr. Matchstick recommended,
Was it good?
and it was. And in the comics, what brought the Justice League together originally was Starro. The basic premise for that Starro story in the Super Sons would make a great one. But I think they've already wasted Starro in the Punisher series or
The Suicide Squad
Suicide
movie.
Squad, whatever. Yeah.
I'll work. I'll wait. I'll
I'll
wait and
wait and
see.
see. I have no idea. It'll be
Neither do
yeah.
I.
And getting back to the Batman thing, it's like I said, they've got these, and it's just the same problem we had with Nolan. It's the same thing we're seeing with the Pattinson Batman, right? You got this guy who's like, no, my Batman is something completely separate. It's like, you conceded ass. It's not your character. Okay. If you're going to do something for Warner Brothers, it's our character. If we want it to be part of a bigger universe, you need to get on board. If not, there's the door.
Well, I'm sorry, but in Nolan's defense, though, I will say this was his Dark Knight trilogy was started before Marvel had even started with their MCU. The idea of integrating all these characters, it hadn't happened yet. I think he signed on.
You're right. He did sign on during the peas and carrots era, where you couldn't let your side dishes touch your main course on the plate.
Like I remember watching Justice League Unlimited, and because there was another Batman cartoon, they weren't allowed to have the Joker on Justice League Unlimited, which was the follow-up series of Justice League. And I'm like, they could mention him in the background,
but if they had somebody in place to oversee their universe that they didn't until James Gunn now, apparently, what they should have said was, you made your 3 movies, you're done. That character is ours. And they could have just taken and continued the same Batman, whether that had Christian Bale in it or not. And you just go, yeah, that running off with Catwoman, that was bullshit. He changed his mind. He came back because he knows, he's got a future ahead of himself. Soft
to be
pivot,
fair,
continue the character.
I will say this. I like that Bruce Wayne kind of gets a happy ending at the end of that movie for once, instead of always being...
I'm sorry, I don't.
That
is just not Bruce Wayne. It's not him.
I don't want to see old Bruce Wayne on Batman Beyond, where he's just had a horrible old life and he's a miserable old man, and then he finally starts training a new hero. I don't want to see that be. I don't know.
I agree with you, but there is something in between. There is.
Wasn't there one final story where he was supposed to marry Talia Ghul? And maybe he did something after that. I don't know if he said his
no, there was a future storyline where he had a child with Talia al Ghul. It was an alternate future, and they ended up canonizing it with Damian Wayne.
Okay.
But no, in the Golden Age, actually in the Silver Age, they said that the Golden Age Batman, the Batman of Earth 1, did marry Selena Kyle. They had a daughter named Helena, who became the Huntress. Honestly, I would be okay if that was the future for Batman. It's somewhere in between. He still ends up with Catwoman, but the legacy continues, and it could be good. It could be good.
Who would you cast as the Joker in this DC Universe movie?
Honestly, I would. It doesn't matter who you cast. I would just say, be inspired by, pretend he is, draw on the Heath Ledger Batman, or excuse me, Joker.
I was thinking Johnny Depp.
I think he's too old.
You think he's too old at this point? Pity.
He's too old.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Did you see his video where he did a video of as Jack Sparrow for the kid with the YouTube channel?
Yeah. He's getting
He's getting old. He's getting old. Yeah.
Pity. I think he could have played a good Joker back in the day, but Oh, well. Okay, let's
That's
go to the
another
next
story, but I really think that Jack Sparrow needs to be recast, and I'd love to see them bring Johnny back and
Okay,
have him tell a story of his younger days, and then flash back to a younger actor. But that's another story. Let's move on with more Warner Brothers news.
this is true. He's touched a lot of people in his life, even if he didn't have flesh and blood family. He should have family around him, like the 20. Yeah,
I
you're
agree.
right about that. Yeah, because it's Christopher Reeve's Superman's and Michael Keaton's Batman exist in the same universe, DC. Really, because weren't they destroyed in? Wasn't the Christopher Reeve Superman universe destroyed on that um, DC Arrowverse special with all the universes?
Only if you believe that the Brandon Routh that we saw in there was the same as the Christopher Reeve Superman, and I'm not so sure that that works out. I'm not
Okay.
sure that plays.
DC is wrapping up another crisis event and as is standard practice with these stories, the DC multiverse has given up a major overhaul. DC has fully abandoned the 52 universes approach popularized by 2011's New 52 relaunch.
Shocker! Shocker!
Instead, they're returning to a classic version of the multiverse where thousands of parallel Earths vibrate in cosmic harmony. And now that includes a world that serves as home to both Christopher Reeve's Superman and Michael Keaton's Batman. Are they trying to say with the 52 universes there wasn't room for that universe? Don't answer that question.
Yeah, I suppose.
Don't answer that question, you nerds.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Um, the new tie-in special, Dark Crisis Big Bang, acts as a guide to the revamped multiverse with Barry Allen racing across dozens of worlds as he tries to stop the reborn Anti-Monitor from devouring the multiverse all over again. This issue ends with a detailed list of several dozen of the countless worlds that make up the DC multiverse. The new multiverse chart reveals that the aptly named Earth 789 is the setting for both 1978's Superman and 1989's Batman.
That's actually very clever. 789. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what would be interesting? I just thought of what they could do for Wonder Woman in this new thing. Because I saw the animated movie. They could do a Justice Society World War II and have her and the old school Flash and like some of the older superheroes. That might work.
I just shared something you should bring up.
Okay.
I believe this is Alex Ross's art.
I like Alex Ross. He did a Gotcha
now this
out of the planets thing.
This article is not saying that Linda Carter and John Wesley Shipp are part of this universe, but I could totally see that fitting. It would still work.
I used to like the old Flash TV show back in the day. We should do a good old days on that someday.
It was good. Yeah, I'd be up for that. That'd be fine. But yeah, I like that idea. I have mentioned that there is a Batman 89 6-issue miniseries out there. That continues the Michael Keaton verse. In fact, it deals with a what's his name? Lando Calrissian. What's the actor's name?
Billy D. Williams.
Billy D. Williams. Billy D. Williams' version of Two-Face, and the introduction of Robin as he would have been in the Tim Burton verse. Great idea. And they also did a Superman 78 follow-up that would have been the Superman 3 with Brainiac that we should have gotten. It was actually very, very good.
Subscribe to Netter's Network. Get her to 200. You can celebrate 200 together.
There you go. There you go.
Boosh McFadden and Linda Carter are still hot. Yes, she is. She is aged very well. Yeah,
she is, but she needs to keep her politics. She needs to stop it. She needs to stop it.
I don't know what she's been saying. I don't think I want to know.
You know, you don't want to know. Let's just forget about that.
Okay.
But
okay. So according to the comics, they're going to make them part of the. So we'll finally see Keaton reprise his Batman role in 2023's The Flash. Though with Warner Brothers Discovery canceling both the back room of the unannounced Batman Beyond movie, it remains to be seen if Keaton will appear elsewhere in the DCU. No. That's okay. He'll show up in the Morbius sequel as the Sinister Six movie that I'm sure is being planned for the non-Spider-Man universe.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
So you like my idea though, ending with the world's finest sort of thing?
I do. Yeah.
That might be
It
kind
could
of
it
neat.
could actually absolutely work. Yeah.
In fact, I think it'd be funny if like the first two movies, I don't know if you'd have Metallo in one of the Superman movies. Like Lex Luthor keeps sending up guys to kill Superman, it doesn't work, and then the Joker shows up at the end of one of the Superman movies, says, "I can take care of it for you." You know, that'd be
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know, but we'll see. I don't know if that's what they'll do. What do I know? I'm just.
I do
I'm
think
just
a world's finest, actually a world's finest Superman, Batman, and what was it that was Green Arrow and Green Lantern? They were in a team up story title too. I forget. What
You know what I
was.
actually liked on Justice League? There was like one part of an episode, like they were in two parts. The first part, it was John Stewart Green Lantern having to partner with Barry Allen Flash, and it was
Interesting.
funny seeing the two of them interact because the Flash is more of a joke. It was not a Barry Allen Flash. Wally West Flash,
Wally
and it
West,
was
yeah.
and he's more of a joker. And of course, John Stewart is Mr. Ex-military,
Yes,
military guy.
exactly,
So they
exactly.
didn't exactly.
Actually, what I loved was again that Justice League International era, where you have Martian Manhunter, who's kind of a Spock-like character,
Mhm.
kind of very
Yeah,
logical
very
and
much. Yeah.
reasoned. Always, always coming to blows with Guy Gardner, who is just this
Oh,
radical cowboy, right wing goofball,
that's funny.
almost Archie Bunker-ish.
Yeah, they need to. There's a lot you can do with DC, more than Warner Brothers probably knows. They
Yeah, they're
just when you
missing
bring
out on a
Hawkman
lot.
into it and Doctor Fate, maybe introduce them to us, and even if you introduce them in a Superman movie or something like that, just
Well,
or
now I
Batman
guess they'd have
movie.
to reintroduce them, right? I mean,
Yes.
but you're right. Those two characters are brilliant because you could introduce them in ancient Egypt. You could have them in World War II. You can have them in the modern day, right? And
Yes,
all different actors.
that's what they should do. That might soften the blow of Gal Gadot leaving. Have Justice Society do what they did with that DC animated movie, because Wonder Woman was around in World War II. Have her being with the Justice Society and have it be like a lot of the old school superheroes,
Yeah,
like the original Flash. That would also take the bad taste of Ezra Miller out of her mouth while we wait to do Barry Allen later on. That would be interesting.
that would be brilliant if they did these World War II era stories. I think that would be
That'd be
brilliant.
neat, and you could do a Blackhawks. You could almost have a whole line of the World War II era stuff with
And
Wonder
you're
Woman,
right.
and
That
then you
would
could
give us
eventually bring her into the present. Yeah,
that would be like a phase -5, right? That
yeah,
could lead us
exactly.
up to a modern phase 1 with the yeah. Oh gosh.
Actually, it would be
Anyway,
interesting if somehow the World War II storyline could could go with the modern storyline.
story elements from World War II that end up having
You,
ramifications in the present day.
not to bring up the Justice League cartoon, but what happened was, because Green Lantern had all the heroes in like a Green Lantern thing, they like time shifted on Earth, like someone changed the past, and it turns out a certain German regime had taken over the world, and it turns out Vandal Savage is their leader, so they have to go back in time to World War II to stop that from
Yep.
happening, and
That's
that's where they
interesting.
run.
There
Yeah, and they
was
could, yeah.
pre-crisis there was an alternate universe that was called Earth X, and it was a world where in the modern day Germany had won World War II, and so the heroes of the U.S. were kind of fighting in a resistance, and it was different characters. It wasn't Superman and Wonder Woman. The Superman-esque character was Uncle Sam.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Huh, they could do that. That'd be interesting. That'd be something
it would be
different.
brilliant. It would absolutely be brilliant. But anyway,
Let's move on to news no one cares about. Okay, the Nevers canceled after one season.
honestly, you
Back
said
to
we'd talked about the Nevers before. I don't remember it.
this was early on in the streams. I was saying, "Hey, Josh." It was back when Josh Whedon was getting under fire from Ray Fisher, and they said he was officially kicked off the Nevers,
Gotcha.
which was the new. This was back when Jason Kilar was running things, and HBO Max was having all these new original series, and everybody was excited about the Nevers. It was going to help boost the network. Well, it's gone. So Westworld is also gone. I didn't bother sending that article. Westworld is being pulled from the channel. It's not going to be on HBO Max anymore, even though they not only did it not get renewed, they're pulling it. And I think how Zaslav is saving money, they're probably thinking, can we sell this to Netflix or something, they could shove it on there and then get revenue from it instead of having it on our station.
Yikes.
Like he thinks so little of Westworld, will just anybody else that wants to put it on their streaming will just get royalties from it. He doesn't want it on HBO Max anymore. And I guess the same thing is being said about The Nevers. So Joss Whedon's The Nevers is being pulled from HBO Max. TV line is confirmed, essentially bringing the HBO sci-fi drama to an end after one season. Only the first half of the show's 12-episode run has aired, and Variety reports that the remaining 6 could eventually stream on another platform. I believe the other 6 couldn't get made because of the certain pandemic that was going on, and they had to post-production. But The Nevers is set in the last years of Queen Victoria's reign, as London is beset by the quote-unquote touched people, mostly women who suddenly manifest abnormal abilities, some charming, some disturbing. Among the touched were Amalia True, Outlander's Laura Donnelly, and Penance Adair, Red Rocks and Skelly. They are the champions of the new underclass, the show's official synopsis reads, making a home for the touched while fighting the forces of, well, pretty much all the forces to make room for those whom history, as we know it, has no place. Does that sound interesting to you?
No.
Okay, well, we stepped away from the day to day.
And I'm sorry. This falls under, another series that I didn't get into that I know is going away, and I see no reason to invest. And ironically, Joss Whedon. I mean, it happened with Firefly. It looks like it's happening with this too.
Yeah. So okay. Apparently, Firefly is going to get rebooted on Disney Plus at some point. That should be interesting, right? Especially considering that the fact that the analogs, our heroes on it are analogs for the Confederates. So,
yeah.
All right, I'm off for the night. Good night, Matanui. Thank you for stopping by.
Take it easy, buddy.
HBO Max is doing that with a lot of shows, renting them out to Netflix for a period of time. Why would I get HBO Max if I'm not going to get the content they own?
Good point.
I want to say quiet. What's quiet, you?
Honestly, he's speaking to an excellent point that I've been making for a long time.
Okay.
Either you stop licensing out your stuff and build your platform, make it an exclusive platform, and this is where you've got to come to get your whatever, or you just stop doing your own platform and license out your stuff to one big one like Netflix or Amazon or something.
You mean it's like when I go to Paramount Plus, which like a month earlier it said we're the home of Star Trek, all Star Trek here all the time, and then I go on there and the movies are gone because they send them over to AMC or some channel like that, and I'm like, where are my Star Trek movies? Okay, go ahead and do a post of the next one. Let's move on from the Nevers. Yeah. No one cares.
Yeah, this one, we're back to Henry Cavill. This was one that I think some of you were waiting for.
Amazon. Well, I don't know why you're waiting for it because I read this article and I'm not as excited. Okay, Amazon reportedly seeking to develop a live-action Warhammer 40K series starring Henry Cavill. Well, let's read the article.
Okay.
Though his time as both the Big Blue and the White Wolf may have come to a premature end, a new rumor suggests that Henry Cavill may soon find himself donning a suit of power armor and serving the Imperium of Man. The revelation that The Rock's campaigning for his return as the Man of Steel had all been for naught was first shared on his December 14th by Cavill himself. Yeah, we already read that. So, okay, so among them who found themselves disappointed by Cavill not being grasped was iZombie and The Haunting of Bly Manor star Rahul Cole, who responded to the news by tweeting, "Hey Henry, F it, let's make a Warhammer movie limited series. Kind regards, Rahul." Oh, Coley, excuse me. Though Coley's tweet was more of a hopeful kickstart to a potential Warhammer 40K project, rather than any sort of official announcement, it seems that the actor may not have been too far off the mark when it comes to Cavill's future. Speaking with the film critic John Rocca during the December 15th episode of the Hot Mic podcast, noted film report Jeff Snyder asserted yesterday morning, I get an email from a source I haven't heard from in a while who was always accurate in the past. It sounds like Amazon is buying the rights to Warhammer 40K, which may be attaching Henry Cavill to star in his next big post-The Witcher role, he teased, before clarifying this is all unconfirmed, though. I think that in the coming days you're going to hear something about someone getting the rights to Warhammer 40K, Snyder added. I think my sources says that it will be Amazon, but clearly these rights are in play and may well be Henry Cavill's next big franchise. Snyder would later reiterate his scoop on Twitter, retweeting Coley's original post and telling his followers, as I just announced on the hot mic, I'm told today that this may actually be in the works. I'm hearing that Amazon is making a play for the. Okay, I already read that because it's about in the comics article. Okay. Um, so, yeah, let's see. It also goes on to say here. Should Cavill actually find himself enlisted under the service of the God Emperor, it would be undoubtedly be a personal career highlight for the former Superman actor, as he himself is a fan of the popular tabletop game. I finally made the pilgrimage to Warhammer World, and what a day I had! Exclaimed Cavill on Instagram in February, sharing a video of his visit. I don't often get giddy with excitement, but getting to meet the likes of Andy Smiley, Mark Chambers, Wade Price, and Aidan Daly, and being able to pick their brains about minute and exclusive parts of the lore while wandering the halls of the exhibition center was a dream come true. Some of you may not know what Warhammer is, and I urge you to take a look, he encouraged. If you live in the United Kingdom, definitely go to Warhammer World, wrote the actor. The artistry involved and the synergy between miniature designs that are so enormously diverse is extraordinary. The brilliance of the artistry is rather wonderfully matched by the sense of community and also the passion that is shown by both people who work there and the people who visit. I don't often feel at home, but I did that day, he concluded. So Henry Cavill is a big fan of Warhammer. That's what I get from that.
Yeah.
Nothing in this article to me suggests that this series is even happening.
Yeah, right.
It's a rumor going around that Amazon is negotiating the rights. Even if Amazon does negotiate the rights, maybe it'll star Henry Cavill. Maybe it'll star Lena Dunham. I don't know.
Right.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny. If Apple was announcing they were fighting for the rights, I might be more excited because Apple, I think, is just trying to make good content right now. That could change, but we'll see if this thing happens. I mean, Amazon did good with Reacher, but Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time have not been so well received. So maybe you do not necessarily want this becoming an Amazon property, but we'll have to wait and see. So, like I said, we have a Warhammer expert we'll have on. He may still be in the chat, but if this does come to fruition, you can explain it more to us. What do you think, though?
Well, like I said, I don't know that as much as and I say we give him a shout out, Mr. Matchstick.
Mr. Matchstick.
He is offered to be our resident expert on Warhammer, and we will definitely have him on to talk a little bit more about. Maybe what we'll do is if we see this thing moving forward and there's another news article to talk about it, maybe we do a good old days about Warhammer, but we're going to kind of have to turn it over to.
We'll turn it over to him.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you're not more familiar with it though, as you were more into tabletop than I am.
I was, but yeah, I never really quite got into it. I was kind of into what was it? Not BattleTech. It was what was the fighting game with the mechs?
That was BattleTech.
BattleTech. Yeah, I did play BattleTech. But no, I didn't really get into Warhammer. But it's got a great fandom, and I know there's games and there's books, cartoons, and there's books,
there's
and
computer
so forth.
games too.
There's all kinds of fandom for it. Obviously, Cavill's among them. And it's great, it's getting a movie. Oh great, Cavill's going to be in it. Oh great, Cavill's going to be a producer on it. It's going to be on Amazon. Fuck.
If he's a producer on it, I would hope that would give him some creative control for them not to mess it up.
I don't know. We'll see as we get closer to it.
I'm still horrified when Deleted Scenes said that Blade Runner, that they're doing a Blade Runner series for Amazon. And I was I was not happy when I heard that.
Oh, dear God.
Because I love some things, we all have the things we're passionate about, like Warhammer fans are passionate about Warhammer. Me, I was very passionate, especially after 2049, that Blade Runner movie, and I do not want to see them doing a follow-up. Because I'm worried they'll screw it up royally, and we'll have to wait and see. I still have to watch White Lotus, though. That was the anime series they did. But okay, Harry Potter. Let's move on. Harry Potter novelist J.K. Rowling.
Yep. Actually, the last one we could probably save until next week.
Why don't we just do that?
But
it's getting late. It's getting late. I have to get to work tomorrow.
We had a lot today, didn't we?
Actually, next week,
this week,
though. Yeah, I don't think I'll be on next week because what is next Sunday?
What is next Sunday?
Christmas.
Oh, is it actually the 25th?
I think next Sunday is the 25th. Yes. So yes,
it is.
So I'll get back on that, but I think I will be. Yeah,
doing Christmas stuff.
Yeah. I'll be doing Christmas stuff. Yeah, it's the one Christmas Eve and Christmas are the 2 days. I mean, who know? You know.
Yeah.
Next Monday is the 25th.
Yep.
Next Sunday, yeah. So.
All right, I got it. So it's Harry Potter novelist. Oh, J.K. Rowling. She's back in the news. Uh-oh.
Admits book sales went up after she referred to being canceled, lampooned safe spaces, and more. Yeah, this was an interesting one. Harry Potter novelist J.K. Rowling recently admitted that her book sales have increased, and she was referenced being canceled while also lampooning safe spaces and describing the current gender madness in the West as the most misogynistic period of her lifetime. In a wide-ranging interview with Suzanne Moore on her Substack, Moore notes that the period in J.K. Rowling's life is the most misogynistic period of her lifetime. Rowling expanded on this, telling Moore, "If you'd shown me when I was 18 that what young girls would be dealing with now, what we'd all be dealing with, but particularly young girls, I would have been horrified. Because when you're 18, you assume this can only get better, like when we've got these rights and we've got all these amazing women doing feminist analysis, and it will change. It will really change. By the time I'm my mother's age, I thought my daughters would have it so much easier, but now I think we've gone backwards. I think we're living through a nightmare." She would later inform more about her dislike of ideologies during a brief discussion about feminism. "I never stopped liking lipstick, but radical feminism is a very broad church. There were things in there that I wouldn't agree with. I don't like ideologies of any kind. I have never met an ideologue who wouldn't suppress a little bit of the truth." You're right. You pick your tribe, you chant the mantras, and you defend everything to the death, even if logic has to be convoluted. She further detailed. "You leave your brain at the door," Rowling then declared. "I've been thinking about this so much over the last year, maybe 10 years. The old definitions of left and right seem to have blurred so much. I feel we're currently waging a cultural war between what I would see as authoritarian and liberals, and those categories seem to me to be cut across the old left-right divide," she explained. Well, discussing backlash she received for speaking out against transgender activism, Rowling admitted her book sales increased when she referred to herself as being canceled back in 2020. Rowling told Moore, "The only time I've ever made references to being canceled, my book sales went up. Why am I even laughing? I can't believe I'm saying these words, but you have to mock them. I do not consider myself canceled." Harry Potter author would go on to question the whole idea of a safe space as well. What is a safe space? For me, a safe space is not somewhere where I have to use the correct terms or where I am not allowed to talk about my own life experience, or I'm not allowed to profess a belief in biology. How is that a safe space for me? Of course not. Nor is it a safe space for many, many women. Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, no, I think she's absolutely right. And to put a fine point on it, I think that J.K. Rowling is a classical liberal, right? And I'm seeing more and more classical liberals starting to say, the modern liberals are so far left, I associate more with the right now than I do than them. You know, it's gotten ridiculous. What do they call it? The Overton window has just shifted so far, and there's a lot of people. You know, just look up hashtag walking away. A lot of classical liberals sharing how they're leaving here in the United States, leaving the Democratic Party, and either going independent or voting Republican, and finding that the Republicans are not really as antagonistic as they thought they were. You know. And people saying, "Yeah, welcome to the club, my friend. I don't really necessarily agree with everything you believe, but you got a place at our table."
I've heard it referred to them as like now it's the party of the outcasts. That's what I've heard.
Well, and
you think that's
what the Democratic Party tried to be, but it never really was. So you had a lot of people from a bunch of different demographics saying, "Well, I got to go Democratic because the right is the party of the rich." And now they're starting to realize that was never really true. Really, the right was the part of, free enterprise and, and whatnot. But that meant upward mobility. Whereas the left is the Democratic Party is the side of handouts. I remain a victim and I just keep taking a handout, and that doesn't help me and that doesn't help my future generations. So if you believe in the American dream, and that means taking responsibility for your future and, going and making it happen for yourself and having the freedom to do it without government preventing you from doing it, then you'd be, at least libertarian. If
That's
not,
probably the most aligned with that point of view.
Yeah, because the problem is when you start talking Republican Democrat, you also have to talk deep state and
and some of them,
the government of puppets, right?
Some of the Republicans are entrenched in that as well, though I don't think as many.
Absolutely, no, you're absolutely right. That is very, very true. The ones that the libertarians or the truly conservative Republicans refer to as rhinos, Republican in name only. But
J.K. Rowling, though, she's coming at
real
this
quick. Let's although it's late in the stream, we always appreciate you when you get here. No matter when you get here, you can always rewind and hear the rest of the show. But Gap After Dark stopped by to say hi, Aged Boomer and Troy.
Welcome,
Boosh, and all the rest of the chat. There you go. So, there you go. But anyway, yeah. So getting back to what I was saying about J.K. Rowling, she's saying what a lot of populists, independents, libertarians believe, right? You can have your liberal views, but if it becomes a religion and you're canceling people that disagree with you, that's a problem. And if you're going to claim to be about science and then ignore the science that you don't like because it conflicts with your ideology and your agenda, that's a problem.
Yeah. It's a...
But bottom line for her is she doesn't give a crap what anyone thinks because she's still making money hand over fist. And every time someone says, well, I like Harry Potter, but I don't want to give any money to J.K. Rowling, she's like, make your choice. Because every time you see a Harry Potter film, every time you read a book, and every time you buy some licensed product, cha-ching for me.
It's interesting. She's a British feminism. I know that feminism in Britain is different than feminism in the United States, too.
Not really. It still falls under the same kind of, classical feminism versus this modern socialistic feminism.
But maybe they just didn't get into that as much as the modern. That's what I was trying to make a point about. I think I don't know. I don't live there. If we have any,
there's still a woke push over there in Britain too. They're having the same problems we are over here. So she gets it.
It'll be a scary winter next year, so we'll see how we.
I just feel like I can look at J.K. Rowling and what's the old adage? I may not agree with everything that you believe, but I'll fight to the death. You're right to say it, and I think she would probably say the same about me as well.
And I'll fight for no one being canceled by any side of the political aisle. I mean, if it's just words and thoughts, come on. I mean,
look, I kind of feel like people cancel themselves. Right?
Yeah, Kanye probably did that. But
yeah, he's going through something. I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah,
but you see a lot of these people where look at Jennifer Lawrence right now. She's kind of fucking canceling herself. She's turned herself into a laughingstock on the internet.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah,
shut your mouth.
She really needs to. I mean, I don't want to take away her voice, but for her own good, she should be quiet, at least for a while.
Stop talking. A lot of these young starlets, they need, I don't know.
Well, they buy into the Kool-Aid. She believes there was no feminism before her generation. And every woman in the industry that had, powerful roles before her look at her and go, girl, you need to sit down.
I remember the last X movie she was in where she's like, prefer you call X woman since we're always saving you. I'm like, really? We had to go there? Whereas in Deadpool, when he says, "I'm calling our team X Force,"
Yeah.
X-Men, kind of sexist, don't you think? But the whole
Yeah.
point is that they
That
were
was a
making
joke,
fun of that.
yeah.
That was a joke because then
And he was also drawing on the source material, where they actually did bring in an X-Force, which was a separate thing, from the X-Men.
and I think Domino's like, isn't it kind of redundant X-Force or something? Like she was not impressed with that name. It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, I hope Deadpool 3 is good. I hope it comes out and it's good because it's under Disney umbrella, but maybe still under Fox. Maybe there's some autonomy there. I don't know. Don't mess it up.
I agree.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Anyways, do we have anything to look forward to next year? I don't know. I guess we'll be talking about that when we come back.
Here's what we got to look forward to. It won't be this year. We'll have all new shit to look forward to.
I hope so. We have The Flash. And
Actually, part of me is kind of looking forward to that because it'll be over and done with. It's like it's like, okay, this is gonna be a little gross, but if you've ever been sick, and you're that your stomach's gurgling and you're fighting it and you don't want to go and expel it, but eventually you can't fight it anymore and it comes out and it's horrible, but then I feel so much better. I got that out, and you can move on from there. I think that's what we got to do with Flashpoint. Let's just get on with it.
oh, she said derivative. I like Deadpool 2. Not as good as 1, but I love the character. What I loved about Deadpool 2 is that it made fun of a lot of these Marvel.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea that Deadpool gets sent to prison because he kills somebody, who I guess he just thought deserved to die, so they send him to prison. Then he escapes from prison. I guess, I guess if you escape from prison in the in this particular Marvel universe, that's like that you're free. You don't have to get arrested again. That's how I thought of it because that's how it always is in these movies. Like
I do kind of feel though, like with Deadpool, there's almost an element of because he's telling it from his point of view. You also you kind of have that unreliable narrator. So some of this might be a little bit questionable.
of course.
I mean, come on, look at the going back in time thing, and I can't kill baby Hitler, but let me introduce you to my friend Cavill. I mean, I don't honestly believe that happened in their universe. But I could totally see him imagining doing it,
It's just it was a funny movie. I like the first one too. Gina Carano was in Deadpool 1, remember?
Yes, she was.
Yes.
I very much liked her in that one. And honestly, I liked both versions of Deadpool 2.
I haven't seen the second one yet. I do have access to it. I've got.
You should. It's fun. You know what? You should probably just watch both of them back to back and tell me if you don't wish that there was like a fan edit that puts the two of them together.
Is it that different from Deadpool 2, the original cut?
Well, you got to figure there's a lot of stuff that's cut out to make it PG-13,
Okay.
right? So they have a bunch of stuff that's put in that wasn't there before. So yeah, it is significantly different.
I don't know. I hope we don't get more of that Sharon Stone scene that he was imitating, and that was wrong on so many levels. Anyway,
but absolutely on brand and brilliant.
okay. So this week, what's going on?
I totally missed it. Mr. Matchstick, I know I asked you, and you may have responded to me, but I don't remember if you said that there's something coming up this Tuesday. I apologize, but it's very difficult sometimes for me to follow the chat and our notes and our conversation.
Let me go up. I'll see if he's got
but while you're looking to see if Mr. Matchstick has anything on Tuesday, I don't know about anything happening with Birdman on Monday and Wednesday. Do you?
I don't know if he has anything going on this week, but if he does do an impromptu Wednesday stream, he may have something coming up. He may, I don't know, because I know he's out of town a lot too. No, I think he's out of town doing concerts, provided he can. Anyway, sure. Let's.
And I'll tell you what else. So I did mention that I've got a poll going on the MeWe group and on my what do they call it? Community tab on YouTube. 5 different Christmas movies, and we're trying to get the top 2. Netter and I will do as watch parties on Friday night and Saturday. And you know what? Maybe I'll do a third one on Sunday. Because it's just me and Netter here on Christmas.
There's 2 at 29%.
Oh, there you go. So which one is the forerunner?
Does that mean the one on top?
Yeah.
The 2 on top are Holiday Inn and Santa Claus.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And that's the Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
The third one would be A Christmas Story.
There you go. So we may end up getting 3. I like I said, I expect everyone to have stuff going on Christmas, but maybe I'll keep the Geeky Geezers slot open by doing a watch party.
And who knows if I can't promise I will be free Christmas Day. Probably not. But if I do get free time, maybe I'll pop in. You never know.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'll send you a link just in case.
It's just they're 2 days out of the year, which are trouble, and it's Christmas. It's Christmas Eve and Christmas usually.
Dude, you're allowed to have a life.
And actually,
Absolutely,
I'll say this: Easter. I actually might be getting into the tradition of doing what we did last year with those Easter specials. I'll have to find another Easter special. Maybe we do Easter again, but
okay.
Rewatch.
Like
We'll see. Unless there's a big news
Geezer
week.
and Geezette.
Geezer and Gazette. Geezer Gazette. Yeah, there you go.
The Geezer Geezette. I got you. But I don't know if Miss Messick has anything going on, but if he does, check out his channel. He probably has it on there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to think what else is going on. Friday night, Christmas Eve. I think I should show up to that. That's going to be one of your voted movies.
Yep.
It's funny because I was looking at Christmas movies on HBO Max. What do they have Christmas wise? And I saw some old movies like Christmas in Connecticut. I've never seen that.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I want to watch that.
They
It's all black
remade
and
that
white.
one too.
They did, but
Yeah.
all I know is I saw who's in this, and I said Barbara Stanwyck, and the first thought I had was yes, please.
I know, right?
Barbara Stanwyck, but
And unfortunately,
so
I saw an article about it, and they were like tearing it apart as being,
Screw you.
she's it's so misogynistic because it's of its time and blah blah blah. It's like, you know what?
That makes me want to watch it now.
All of you people that hate fun, that hate and look, it's that whole
The baby, it's
I
cold
remember-
outside. Remember that?
I remember I remember the feminist thing back in the 70s and 80s when it was like, wait, I thought the whole point of feminism was I get to choose. I get to choose to be a stay-at-home mom if I want. And you're pillaring me because you want me to go out and get a job and be a mom and this and that and the other. No. The whole point of feminism is the right to choose, and I choose to be married and have kids and maybe work, maybe not, but it's up to me, There's nothing wrong with wanting to go for a traditional thing, right? That is your choice. Your life, your choice. So... Wow, deleted scenes. You're just dropping the links like crazy.
all of you, you have a Merry Christmas this year. This is just and Happy
Absolutely.
Hanukkah, and just have a good day. Just your friends and family, and we're.
And in the immortal words of Tom Connors, Merry Christmas, bitch.
And I look forward to watching the Santa Claus on Friday. I'm sorry, wait, what? Because I know that's what everyone's going to vote for. That's what I vote
I'll
for.
bet you it's going to be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, probably. Yeah.
I like the Santa Claus. That's Tim Allen. That's a good one.
Yeah.
In fact, we're actually going to my family
before they started ruining it on the streaming service. Yeah.
In fact, my own family and I are going to be watching Santa Claus 2 this year. We've actually never seen that one. We watched Santa Claus 1 last year. We're going to do Santa Claus 2. Like on either
you
Christmas
can do a
Eve or
triple
Christmas
feature.
Day.
There's actually 3 of them.
We have all 3, but we'll probably save 3 for next year. We're doing 1 at a time.
Ah, okay.
Okay, but it's a good one. I saw the original Santa Claus in theaters actually when it came out. But Tim Allen's great. But okay, the true Buzz Lightyear.
Exactly.
I don't know what I'm going to be doing next time on Geeky Geezers. I guess we're going to be. It'll be New Year's Day, so I'll probably be doing
We
Either
could do
year
some
in
sort
review,
of a retrospective.
year
Yeah.
year review, and maybe predictions for next year.
Yeah.
How's
could do
Avatar doing at the box office? Just out of curiosity.
I heard it was doing pretty good.
And it has another
But I
holiday
don't know what
weekend.
the projections are for it. So, I mean,
It has another weekend too, and people are going to be desperate to see something on the big screen. So it'll probably do fine, but we'll see.
yeah.
All right, y'all have a good night. Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a look at all the Merry Christmases and Santa hats. And I like your Santa hat too, Troy. That's pretty.
Thank you very much.
Y'all have
care,
a good
everyone.
night. Bye bye.
Bye bye.